All right. Okay, everybody. Welcome. First day of our budget hearings. Manager Stoltz, the floor is yours.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Today starts well, it doesn't start. It continues the 2026 budget discussion. We started this back in the retreat in February. I say this every year. I'll say it again this year. The budget process, what you're doing in the next couple of weeks is the most important thing that you will do as commissioners all year. It is important that we create a good, responsible, balanced budget that ensures resource availability. It helps and sets and reports internal goals. It prioritizes for the people what is important to this organization and what is not, and it provides a plan going forward with contingencies and flexibilities for this commission to be able to maneuver with whatever hits us in the face. I always say that the budget is the soul of the organization. What you guys decide and what we vote for in August sets forth that preface. You will, over the next 2 weeks, or not quite 2 weeks, a week and some days, you will spend over 13 hours in budget hearings. Now, this is what makes county budget process different than any other government you'll see. Definitely in this jurisdiction, I don't know of anybody else that does budget like this, and it's intentional why we do it this way. You will see department level staff people come in front of you. We're going to try to keep this timely and moving quickly, but they will come and present to you individually about what they're doing, and they will have a template, and we'll go over that in a little bit. You are not just being handed a budget by a manager or a staff budget. You are crafting this. You are sitting at this table, helping us craft this real time, because we insist this, and we will say this publicly, this budget belongs to the people, not a bureaucracy. So you have input right now over the next 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, all the way to ratification, where your hands will be all over this budget. We have several layers of transparency that I want to go over here. Number one, we started this transparency with a retreat with all of you a month and a half ago, 2 months ago at NCAT. We will now move into budget hearings. And at the same time, and Chairman mentioned this morning during the meeting, we have a budget simulator going on to further engage people. And it is intense, Commissioner Blubaugh. We talked about this. It was for that kind of citizen who really wanted to dive in, not just come to a meeting and talk, but actually dive in and look at the budget. That's what we're creating this for. So yes, it's pretty intense for people to do. They need to know what they're getting into, but you either want to learn about it or you don't. So we want that to go side by side with these budget hearings. On every agenda, BOCC agenda from now until August, we will have a segment on BOCC budget to allow any commissioner to ask any budget question that comes up over the next 3 or 4 months that you can talk about also in public open meeting. We will be visiting cab boards and talking about budget. And then we will have 2 public meetings at least where we will be in public talking specifically about the budget. So we have 6 layers of transparency on how we go through the budget process. The format that you will see that these departments will bring forward to you contain 4 main parts. Number one, you will always see an organizational chart, and they will talk about their current staffing levels. That's what has been important, and it continues to be important. They will talk about what they mandatorily have to do by statute or resolution versus what they do that is discretionary. Each department will talk about that. They will all talk about a SWOT analysis. What are their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats right now? And they will then cover any decision or reduction packages that they have to cover with you. You'll see that in every presentation. I will tell you, we've gone through this to some degree as a staff, as a budget team, and we are seeing trends. And here's what we have summarized. Our staffing, you will hear from each department, our staffing is much better than it was 3 years ago, stem to stern, across the board. You will hear, and we had a great example of this at this morning's commission meeting. You had 4 corrections workers get up there. 3 of them had less than a year of experience. Only 1 had 16 years. We are a novice workforce right now. We are a young workforce. That's just the fact of it. And you will hear this from department heads over and over. Costs are rising across the board. This has nothing to do with tariffs or anything else going on. That's a whole different threat. cost, inflation, cost of goods, cost of medicines, cost of vehicles, all going up. You will hear that in these conversations. All department heads are concerned about compensation. We have finally clawed our way back, and they don't want us to lose ground. You will hear that theme as well. Overall, you will also hear that there are more uncertainties now than ever historically that we have faced in the last several years. Not just the normal threats, right? Not just inflation, normal cost rising, internal and medical health costs for employees and for clients and inmates. But we have some external pressures which are real. Tariffs are real. What's going to do the economy is real. We'll see it over the next half a year. What the state is talking about with some type of capping of property tax, we know that's going to happen. So those kinds of threats, you will hear that stress come out in these department heads as they talk with you. It's all reasons why we should be very cautious with our handling of the 2026 budget. And we have a forecast that goes out 5 years. I will just implore you, let's just look at the next 3 years. I think looking out year 4 and 5 is ridiculous. So let's really focus on the next 3 years, stay as lean as we can, be as cautious as we can as we go forward with this budget. So overall, the landscape of the budget, we'll walk in, we have a $6 million deficit walking in. This is for 2026. The CFO is comfortable with some type of ending fund balance reducing to that level. So we feel good going into the 2026 budget. Any additions of what we call permanent money, that is any staffing additions or program additions that continue perpetually into the future, will lead us into further deficit. And we'll have to take an action. We will have to make a cut because of that, or we will have to spend down fund balance more than what the CFO maybe is comfortable with. Neither are really very good options. So we need to be very cautious how we move forward on listening to decision packages. I sent a letter out that I forwarded to all you 3 months ago before I sent it to department heads, that if you come in with a decision package or an extra program this year, come in with a reduction package or a cost offset. I gave one exception to that rule, and that was for 911. We know we have to add asset there, and I could see nothing in that organization that would allow us to cost cut. So Alora is going to come in with a pretty good decision package. All the rest of the departments, so, were asked to come in with reduction packages or offsets. Most did, some did not. Just be cognizant of that.
End the day camping lakeside.
You'll hear all kinds of scenarios when the departments come in. So with that, I will turn it over to Laura, and she'll go through the forecast, and then we will jump into this. Sheriff's up first, I think. So.
Hi, Lorian. Welcome.
Thank you. So as always, I want to thank the budget team, Carly Sanchez, Lee McCrae, and Dustin Sigler, not only for all the work that they did on the forecast, but all the work that they did to make these hearings happen and those gigantic binders that you get every year. So as a reminder, the forecast is a planning tool, projects actual expenditures and revenues, or what we think is really going to happen, while our budget is a maximum spending limit in a given fund for 1 year. So in terms of what is actually included in our forecast, we do plan for all of our current services. We have the current adopted CIP included. That's $31.8 million in cash funded projects through 2029. And then we have a $5 million placeholder in 2030. We have $19.9 million included for technology review board projects throughout all years of the forecast. We have included a stable mill levy rate of 28.701 mills in all years, and that matches our final 2025 rate. And then we have built-in increases of 5% in 2026 through 2030, and that's based on the assumption that that's the amount of value growth that we will be able to capture. So as for what's not included, we don't have any additional funding for new programs or many of the decision packages you'll hear. The only things we've built in so far are those costs of doing business requests. And those are a summary on page 3 of your binder. That's about $1.1 million that has been added in. We don't have anything for unbudgeted community and economic development requests or road projects, unanticipated technology needs, or pending capital improvement needs or priorities. If we look at our key revenue assumptions, for assessed value, you can see those increases of 5%, although we do think that that's going to come in higher than that. For our other key revenues, they are mostly at normal rates across the forecast. But we do have a larger increase for medical charges for service, and that's due to that revenue package that EMS submitted last year for increased in user fees and medical standby fees starting this year. If we look at our investment income, we have estimates of 12.5 million in 2025, 10 million in 2026, and then 6.5 million in the outer years. So that 6.5 million, that's what we think our normal collection amount will be eventually once rates come down. So anything that we collect over 6.5 million, we look at that as one-time revenues. So on the expenditure side, we have a 5% pay pool in 2026 and then 4% pay pools in the outer years. So as a reminder, our 2026 initial compensation recommendation includes a step plus 1% scale adjustment for EMS and sheriff step plans. There's a 3% step for the fire step plan, and then a 2% general pay adjustment and a 2% scale adjustment for all of our other pay plans.
Would you mind repeating that one more time, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the step plus 1% scale adjustment for EMS and sheriff step plans. For fire, it's the 3% step. And then all other pay plans will get a 2% general pay adjustment and a 2% scale adjustment. Okay. So for health insurance, currently we have increases of 5% in all years, but we know we'll be hearing more about those soon. We also have increases in CAPERS and KPF rates, but you'll see large increases in 24 and 25, and that's because of how much higher our staffing rates have been. Our admin charges, we do have a pretty good increase in 2025. That's because they have changed how we're charging grants. We're using the de minimis rate of 10% starting this year, and that has a pretty good increase, 2 to 4% increase for most departments. So that's given us quite a bit more admin revenue. Our software and hardware maintenance, these are always going to fluctuate quite a bit because that depends on what PRB projects are happening in those years. And our external agency funding, the big change you see 24 to 25, that's because we gave that 2.5 million to the zoo for the elephant barn. So on your long sheet, you also have amounts listed by year for TRB, debt service, and cash funded CIP. And all those amounts you see for TRB and CIP, those are one-time costs in those years. You can see there was 31.8 million for CIP and 19.9 million for TRB. So there's quite a bit of one-time costs built in already. To look at our forecasted results, rows 31 to 33, that's aging, highway, and bond and interest. That red is on purpose because we are trying to draw those funds down. We have a goal fund balance in those funds. We're trying to meet it by the end of the forecast life. And so we are purposefully having deficits in those funds. If you look at 29, our general fund, we do have deficits in 25 through 27. This is the same as you saw at your retreat. They have gotten a little bit better, mainly because we're getting much more admin revenue. But our deficits right now, they are all less than our one-time costs in those years. And those costs are allowable uses of fund balance under our policy. And this is what we expect our ending fund balances to look like for our general fund. You can see we're staying well above our 20% minimum balance requirement that's on row 36. And then for the other funds, it's just showing you how we're trying to draw those down across the forecast to meet their goal fund balances in 2030. Then just here's our mill levy rate by fund. Again, 28.701 is what we have every year to match our 25 rate. So as a reminder, what you're seeing in these hearings is not your recommended budget. We have not put in any adjustments for compensation, updated health insurance, CAPERS, KPNF rates. So what you're going to see is a lot of personnel is going to look lower in 26 right now than your 2025 revised budget. Those are all going to go up. They're all going to be higher by the time we get to the recommended. But you'll see there's going to be a lot of changes before then. So if you see those decreases, they're not actually going down. We just haven't included a lot of the factors yet. We'll also include updated fleet and admin charges. And then as you'll see as we go through, there are no CIP or TRB projects currently included in your pages. Our 2026 requested budget totals $585,452,474. You're going to see 10.9 million in decision package requests that include 56.25 FTE requests. And you'll hear that over the next week. You're going to hear all of those. We had one revenue package submitted from the Department of Corrections for $89,661, and that's for a revenue enhancement at adult residential and work release. And then we have $410,129 in alternative reductions that were submitted. If these are accepted, that would eliminate 4.25 FTEs, live KPTS television coverage. Then there are several tools and data management changes in IT that you will see. For our next steps, you've heard about the WSU budget simulator. That runs through May 23rd. And then on June 3rd, you will get the results of that at your staff meeting. The last day for any changes that can go into our recommended budget is June 17th. July 9th is our recommended budget and last up day. And then we do have those two proposed public hearings. July 30th is our evening hearing. And August 20th is the required hearing on our revenue neutral rate and our second budget hearing. And August 20th is also budget adoption day. And then, of course, we can schedule any budget workshops as needed. For anyone who wants to follow along, obviously these will be posted after the fact, but we also will have that online public hearing that starts July 9th as soon as the budget is presented and posted online. And then I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, Lauren, good job. You've done this before, it's obvious, so appreciate this. I just have one question, and I'm not saying I disagree with the approach. I do agree with the approach, but this is the compensation strategy. I don't know if it's Lindsay, Tom, or Sheena that can help me with this, or Lauren, maybe you can help as well. Last year, we talked about every other year doing a plus 2% slide to keep pace. And a department would go and we split the departments, a department would get +2, and then it wouldn't the next year. And then the following year, we're changing that approach. Can you give me a little bit of the reasoning why we want to change that approach?
Well, last year we adjusted everything. We did have it on that cycle and we ended up adjusting everything last year. So there's no real cycle that we're on right now.
Okay. I just remember in this hearing last year, we talked about every other year +2 slides. So that was the first year of that, or wasn't the first year of that?
Telly, go into what happened last year to disrupt that.
So I apologize. I don't remember all the details on it, but we had kind of broken it down into general and then public safety as well. And we made adjustments on that side. So all of the scales that were not set to be adjusted last year were adjusted.
Okay.
We'll get you history on that, Chairman, and come back and report out.
Yeah, it's not urgent. I agree with the approach here. I just want to make sure that we know that we're changing that direction just a little bit. And I think the emphasis is we don't want to fall backwards, is that we want to keep pace with where we're at.
Yes.
And whatever plan does that, I will be supportive of. So
yes.
Okay. Questions, Commissioner Meinzer?
Just a quick question. Why is what was our reason why the budget simulator is going to be over on the 23rd? Not longer. Just open.
So one of the things that we heard from commissioners last year was that having public input earlier in the process would be helpful, as opposed to once a recommended budget had come out. And so Dr. Gula, who's here in the audience and will be joining us for many of the budget hearings, has this set up so that it will run for 3 weeks. We'll get that feedback. Then he's actually going to use some statistical analysis and come back to report to you that first week of June, the end of the first week of June, to tell you what we heard, what were common themes out of that data, so that it can actually be useful potentially for you in making decisions for the recommended, for what the manager wants to recommend, and then also what you all maybe want to make as priorities. So there's a way to actually get that early in the process.
Well, and one of the reasons I'm asking, and I don't see Nicole or if communications here, but I thought we would have this on we each have our newsletters that go out the end of the month. Well, May 23rd is before that.
So yesterday,
yesterday,
everybody who's on your newsletter list got this email. All 5 of you got that out. And then Nicole's also saying too, yes, thank you so much. You're so smart.
We just did what you said.
Yeah, right. I mean, we're just mind readers. And then we also have some funding that was used because WSU is basically paying for this simulator through our agreement with them. That did free up some funding for the scenario tool that we used last year. And so we're actually going to do some minimal, not a ton of spending, but some spending to actually promote this and make sure it gets out to folks. There will be some boosting and some special advertisements so that we can try and get stuff. And then I know SCAC this Saturday, I think, there's an intention to talk about this too. So I think we're going to try and get word out as much as possible.
Commissioner Blueball.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. And County Manager, to your point, the splat isn't measurable. Really, I was talking earlier about people just wanting to vent and stuff, and there's an opportunity for that. You really just want to corral this to analytical, measurable
Right.
data.
Yeah. And back to Commissioner Meitzer's question, we will have an online way for people to give us input all the way through adoption. This interactive portion was to help us create a recommended budget, real input, real time with data attached to it. Yes.
Great. Okay. Okay, Lauren.
Okay.
Oh, Commissioner Howell.
Mr. Chairman. So on the top line, the assessed value, we already know is going to be closer to 7%. If you want these numbers to work, there should be, if you will, a calculated reduction in the mill levy on this sheet already, which would get us to capture only 5%, if you will. That's what proposal we talked about at the retreat was someone talked about capturing 5% out of the estimate. I think the estimate right now is really close to 7%. So why is this showing 5% on line 2 and static mill levy rate on line 47?
So, Commissioner, this all has to do with how our budget and forecasting system is built. It is built the same way the state certified budget form is built, because that was how this was intended to be. So what that means is we plug in an assessed value figure and we plug in a mill levy rate, and that gives us a property tax levy. Well, knowing that you only want to capture a certain amount of assessed value, we are assuming you allow us to capture 5% growth at the current mill levy rate. And that's going to allow us down the road when it's 7.5%, whatever it really is, to then drop the mill levy rate. But until we have that number, this is how we are forced to do it in our system. You're right. We do think the assessed value is actually going to be higher, but we can only manipulate one of two values. We can either go in and manipulate how much we think the assessed value will really be and drop a mill levy rate, or we can do it what we've done here, which we think is more illustrative of what your intention is, which is to only capture 5% regardless of what happens.
I guess my response is we know that number's wrong. That line
We know the 5% is wrong, but we also don't know that 7% is right. And so we are simply trying to say, if you have 5% growth, what does that look like?
So when we have to wait until when to have that number from Mark.
So that was part of the discussion at Solid Waste Fee yesterday. They are going to certify their numbers over to the clerk's office that Friday before Memorial Day. The clerk's office will then translate that into real data for us for real and personal property. But then we still have to wait for the state to give us those state assessed utilities. That typically doesn't happen until the first week of June. They typically will get it to us a few days before June 15th, which is their statutory deadline. So that's why between now and then, it's too hard to predict with any kind of precision. So we're manipulating the variables that we can in a way that we think best tells the story.
I have not been on the simulator yet. I'm looking forward to doing that. But what are the assumptions on the simulator?
The assumptions are budget and the 5% revenue growth in the forecast. The revenues that you're going to see in that simulator match the revenues that are in this book for the property tax supported funds.
Okay, let's talk about the 5% wage increase, I guess, the pay pool.
5% pay pool.
And you broke that down. You said 2% was a scale adjustment. What'd you say?
Yeah, so there is, let me find my.
I call that a COLA. Is that fair?
We call it a general pay adjustment because it doesn't tie to CPI. But we have, let's read them again. A step plus 1% scale adjustment for EMS and sheriff, 3% step for fire, and then a 2% general pay adjustment and 2% scale adjustment for all of our other pay plans.
That's 4%.
Yes.
Okay. On fire, when you say 3% step, that's because they're here a year longer. They just move up one column, if you will, on the chart because they've been here a year longer. But the numbers in every one of those cells doesn't change, is what you're saying. They only they go up one column because they have one step increase and being here 1 year longer.
Correct. They get their step, but we're not moving their scale in 26. They got the scale adjustment in 25.
Is the sheriff getting a scale adjustment?
Yes, a 1%.
The 1% is a scale adjustment.
Yes.
And then on the sheriff, they get a 5% step for being here a year longer.
They do.
Okay. And then EMS, what's their step worth?
They have a 3% step and then a 1% scale adjustment.
But you break all that down on the big sheet here, it says 5%, but really that needs a lot of explanation to get to that number. That may be, like, I'm not sure, is that the right number on the sheet then, considering that full explanation?
I don't know if Sheena, you want to add anything? I think there were some other things that were being considered, so I'll let Sheena talk about compensation.
Excuse me, I would say that it's within the 5% pay pool. So when we started looking at what those percentages should be, we made sure that we didn't top over that.
Okay. So if the scale doesn't change, let's just say fire in this case, if the scale doesn't change and they say, I'm assuming there's some fire personnel that are retiring or doing whatever they do, they're leaving the organization for some reason, and new ones are coming in and they're going at the bottom, then there actually is no fiscal note on the fire operations budget due to salary, because there's people moving up, there's also people going off, there's also people coming on. And so there is no actual net increase to the entire operation. Am I saying that right?
No. So their turnover might be 15 or 20%. That is all the savings we would count on. Everybody else would get a 3% pay adjustment. Plus their civil staff, plus we've got KP&F rates that go up every year, plus health insurance benefits go up every year. So definitely their compensation, their overall personnel budget will increase.
But due to the not the benefits, but the wage that they earn, because
well, for 85% of the staff, if we assume only 15% turnover, that means 85% of those employees will continue their employment the next year, and they will get a 3% increase.
Right. And then there's some
January
folks at the top end that are not going to stay and then replaced with people making less per hour,
right,
per year. So, and again, so if you take that into account, the net effect of all of that, it'd be nice to know simply by performing. Unless there's a scale adjustment, I'm not sure there's actually an increase to the organization, unless there's a scale adjustment. That would be true for EMS and sheriff as well. I'm not making sense of that.
We can show you the numbers that we've got for those individual departments. And BPC, we've got those forecasts built in. So we can show you how that looks based on our assumptions for turnover and all that. And then how it flows down and ripples through that organization as cheaper people come into those higher level roles.
The reason I'm asking is, again, if the state was to pass one of their constitutional amendments, they say we're capped at 3%. That would be the total adjustment for the entire organization. But what happens actually is some sheriff's officers are getting 5%, and there's some people are retiring and going away, and other ones are coming in, and the net effect of that might be 3%. So I don't know if that makes sense or not, but just because there's some people getting 5 or 6% doesn't mean that's what the cost is, right? We don't know what the cost is.
I might interject here. We do a workshop between now and budget adoption on compensation specifically. We have historically, correct?
We have, but we've already presented what we thought the scales would be. There's not much.
And the commission got that. If we want a deeper dive on to where you're going, Commissioner Howell, we could staff that in the future. We could talk specifically about that. Maybe you and I could talk offline about how you want that.
If you look at the distribution of how many personnel are in each of the step positions on that chart, and it's a static thing. Again, I'd say from year to year, it doesn't substantially change. There's still a very similar distribution. There's some people moving up, they're being backfilled by other people. So at the end of the day, I think we need to understand that more deeply, because until just a few minutes ago, I didn't really think of it that way. I thought when you say 5 or 6%, it's 5 or 6% increase in our budget. That's not true at all. Really, it's largely different than that, because we're simply performing the step plan that's in place, and everyone's moving up, but there's people coming off, there's people going on. The net effect of all of that activity is not 5%. It's much less.
So, Commissioner, just as a reminder, we're talking about the financial forecast that the county property tax supported funds only.
I'm just trying to
so you're right. Once we get it out into those individual departments and budget it for ComCare, for all of those different, their actual amounts of budget increase may change. But this is just kind of the pool that we live within the county property tax supported funds. There's only 3 of those that have personnel, and that's the general fund, the highway fund, and aging. So those are the 3 funds that are factored into this 5% pool. Everybody else, it just depends on what is happening with their plans.
I think we need a longer conversation offline, and I'll talk to both you and Tom, but I think there's another way of looking at this. And I think it changes my perspective significantly. I think there's more to it than just what I thought in the past. So I'm all right. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Lauren, if you want to, if you do me a favor, when you call out the department that we're getting to hear from, give us the page number like you did last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ingenious, and it helped a lot. So, okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to hand it over to Sheriff Easter, and we'll be on page 437 of your binders.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, Sheriff. Welcome back.
Good afternoon. Appreciate you having me here today. Oh, good afternoon, commissioners. So we'll kind of go through the PowerPoint that we created here. This is just our mission, vision, and core values that we've had in place for several years. Next is our Sheriff's Office workforce strength. I think mainly because there's 2 new commissioners here. I'll talk a little bit about this. Usually I skip through it, but currently we have 556 FTE positions. And you see that we're 97% full. And so the breakdown of that is we have an administrative bureau, a law enforcement bureau, and detention bureau, and then it breaks out what our percentage is there as far as staff. And like I said, as you can see, we're doing much, much better than we were 3 years ago.
Congrats, Sheriff. Good job.
The next slide that you'll see, the next 2 slides, I'm not going to go over each one of these. Pretty much everything we do in the sheriff's office is mandated by state statute. So everything from running the jail to the courthouse to answering the calls on the street, investigations, those are all controlled by state statute. That's what the next 2 slides depict. The last thing is the non-mandatory services that we do. That's our proactive community-based programs, which are focused on crime prevention, education, and public awareness. We also have a couple positions inside the jail that are not required by state statute, and that looks at reducing recidivism rates and successful reintegration into our community. Those are the 2 things that were not required by state statute. From a strength standpoint, obviously being much more fully staffed is a huge strength that we have right now. The health and wellness program is a piece of that, not just the compensation that you have given us in the last 2 or 3 years, but we are a much healthier staff as well because of our health and wellness program. Some of the opportunities with the stabilized workforce, we believe that we can focus on our employees providing professional development and experience, which improves the quality of services that we provide. One of the things about being fully staffed, we just finished up, we hadn't been able to conduct in-service training for our detention staff in years because of our staffing. We just finished up a week-long training for them last week. We're also able to accommodate last year a week-long training for them. Now that's 1 day at a time for every employee, but a whole week. So the other thing about that is we've been able to engage in much better leadership type training for our supervisors. And we've been doing that for the last several years, and we're seeing the benefits of that as well. Some of the weaknesses, we are less experienced, and that is very obvious. We have a lot of young folks. Most of them are doing a pretty good job, but they're still young. They make mistakes. Recruitment, could still be an issue because of what I'm getting ready to discuss as far as the disparity between our pay and the Wichita Police Department's pay. Threats, historically, staffing shortages has been a threat of ours. And whenever we fall behind around that 24 to 30% range to the Wichita Police Department, that's when we start seeing issues with trying to recruit and sometimes even retaining. One of the things that I'll mention, part of the retaining issue we had 3 years ago is we were number 7 on the list out of law enforcement agencies in this county on pay. So we had a lot of small agencies that were paying better than us, and we were losing people to those particular agencies. And so we're not seeing that right now to the smaller agencies. Are we losing people to the Wichita Police Department? Our detention people, we are, and I'll explain that to you here in a second. So again, that's why, you know, a threat is the competitive wages, so that we can maintain the staff that we have and that we can hire quality people. So in the budget request is the next one, and Lauren explained this one. Thank goodness, because I had the same question for her before we walked in. I'm like, we're $4 million less, but she explained that. So the only decision package that we're asking for is currently the proposal is a 1% pay increase across the board for our uniform personnel. Yes, there's the steps and ranges, which is 5%. If they perform well enough to get a raise. Over here, we have a matrix built in, and if they receive X amount of discipline, if they've had other issues, they could not get a raise. And so most people do, and that's built in through all the ranks. And the reason we did that several years ago was because, you know, we had people that had been here 36 years and never topped out. We're making $26 an hour, those type of things. And there was a lot of non-raise years during those time frames. And to be competitive, we asked for steps and ranges. This was in 17. That was granted. And so again, in each one of those ranks, they top out after 10 years. So, you know, for some of our folks that are topped out, they'll only see 1% increase. If they're not topped out and they perform adequately, then they'll get the 1% plus the 5% increase for the steps and ranges. So any questions on how that operates? Okay. So with that said, again, we are proposing a 4.65% increase instead of the 1% increase. And the reason being for that is due to the fact that we had, as we've discussed in the years prior, the union at the Wichita Police Department was asking for a 20% increase in their pay in 2022, I believe. Once that happened and they seen some of those increases, and we were still pretty short on personnel, we were back up in the 26th percentile range below them on pay. So in 23, we sat with the commissioners, we sat with finance and the manager, and put together a plan on how we could get to that point of a 20% increase over 3 years. The first part of that was a 8.7% increase in Q1 of 2024, which raised our starting pay from $23.97 to $26.06. That reduced the difference between us and the Wichita Police Department down to 14.8%. We then asked if we, you know, curved overtime, saw an increase in our staffing, that in Q3 of 2024, an additional 2% increase. That would have raised the starting pay to $26.58. That reduced the difference between us and the police department to 11.92%. The proposal was if we could receive a 4.65% increase this year and a 4.65% increase next year, which would have totaled that 20%. And so last year we had received 2%. This year the proposal is 1%. Since that point, the union has successfully negotiated more than 20%. They got 13 some odd percent at the beginning of this year. So the starting pay for a Wichita Police Department officer, if we only do the 1% increase, is $34.12 an hour. Sheriff's deputy with the 1% increase is $27.38, which is a $6.74 difference in pay, starting pay, which the difference is 24.6%. And remember, we're only talking base pay, not all the other incentives that they get that we do not have. If you institute a 4.65% pay scale adjustment, that starting pay reduces to $5.75 an hour difference, which is a difference of 20.27%. So what we know is, because of the past, when we were in that 11 to 14 range, we were competing. And in the past, we know that when it got above 20%, we had a hard time competing. And so that's why we're asking in this decision package for the 4.65%. The other side of this is that I also understand where you're at as a commission prior to even hearing the forecast today. So I know there's not a lot of monies out there, and I know that there is not, there's a lot of difficult decisions that you have to make. I have also had in-service training for all of our commission people last week or the last 2 weeks. So I've messaged to them, we're asking for this. And if there's somewhere in between, or if it's 1%, that's what it is. You guys have, over the last 3 years, have granted quite a bit of money to us to help us compete. Our threat here is if it becomes a problem because of the difference in pay, and somebody just looks up, PD pays this, SO pays this, they all go applying there. And I'd mentioned earlier, we have detention deputies that are being hired by the police department for this next class. And we've talked to some of them, they're like, yeah, they pay more. And so we're never going to be the same as them. We're never going to make as much money as them. We understand that. But we have to compete. And so, again, I've messaged that to our deputies saying, this is the predicament that the county's in right now. And the county's not willing to go millions of dollars in the hole on compensation, not just for us, but for the county in general. But they also understand, or you understand, that we have to compete. So there has to be some give and take on this. And so that's why I'm here today. And that's the only decision package that we have.
Okay, very good. Sheriff, thank you. I appreciate it. Any questions for Sheriff Easter?
Yep.
Commissioner Howe.
Thank you, Chairman. So just going back on the page 8, that chart at the bottom, I know this is going to be a very common thing we'll see on basically all these agency charts like this, but it appears that it's lower by 4.76%, or 4.76%. But I don't think that's actually what we should be thinking about this. How should I interpret that? Is it actually a smaller budget this year?
It is at the moment because we haven't included pay pools or updated health insurance, KPERS, KPNF rates. So personnel especially is going to look quite a bit lower until you get to your recommended budget. Then they will be higher than 25 when we get there.
So the 25 revised includes all those benefits. The
Yes.
26 requested does not.
Doesn't include any updated rates or any kind of pay pools. So they'll go up quite a bit.
You do a comparison year to year, it's hard to know what we're looking at unless we get this an apples and apples comparison. I know it's probably too late right now, but it'd be nice to know of the $84.4 million, how much of that was salary versus benefits.
We can easily produce that for you, sir. I think the distinction that's going to be important through all of this is not a recommended budget. We haven't had sign off from Tom yet on what the compensation pool is going to look like. So we don't want to jump the gun and include those numbers in a budget document. You'll see them in the forecast. You'll see what the bottom line impact is in the forecast. But in terms of budget dollars, it's just going to look different because we don't have a commitment to a pay pool.
Well, it's important for everybody who's watching this to understand the difference in these numbers is one includes benefits, one does not. And that's a pretty big number when you think about, so 26 will be a bigger number than 25.
It will be.
You just don't see it yet.
Right.
It's coming. Okay.
Right.
And then I had, I guess, one other question. On the sheriff's office, I certainly understand all the arguments about starting salary, but I guess I'd like to know for a career law enforcement officer, say he comes in at whatever age and he works with the sheriff's office for 25 years, what's his compensation package look like over the 25-year career, and the retirement look like over that same time frame? So we can actually compare, if you will, not just the starting wage, but really a career impact on salary comparison between WPD. So what I understand is I
don't think we want to compare the retirement. I can tell you that right now.
The retirement's better, you're saying.
In the buyback.
And what about do we allow for our salaries to get higher after a number of years? Do we surpass them at some point, or we never surpass them?
So currently, at the 10-year mark, because we top out at 10 years, they top out at 15. So we're almost dead even with them in 10 years. And then the additional 5 years, they go ahead again. When prior to 2 years ago, that when they reached the 10 years, we were slightly above them at 10 years. That's why the FOP went back asking for money.
Is there a safe presumption that for a sheriff's officer that before he gets to 10 years, he would promote to the next row, if you will?
Mm-hmm.
And again, so I don't know what year that would be kind of average. Let's say it's 8 years or 9 years, whatever it is. And for PD, that might be 13, 14 years. I'm just making this up.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, when they get that promotion to the next level of the next row, their salary should not go backwards. It only goes forwards. And so I guess I would be wondering then, let's say on a 25-year career, where do we end up over that? If you were to put this on an Excel spreadsheet and add all that up, are you better off being a sheriff's officer? If you plan on being a career law enforcement officer, you actually really, is it substantially different at the end of 25 years, or is it they're way ahead, or are we competing on that?
Well, so I can tell you every rank, they're way ahead of us. So even if they promote it detective, their pay rate's higher. They promote to sergeant, their pay rate's higher. They promote to lieutenant. It's the same way, whether you're a deputy or up to a captain. Well, colonels and sheriff too, but we're only looking at captains and below.
Do they promote? Let's say, I'm just making this up again. Let's say we average a typical sheriff's officer would promote, say, 8 years. Do they promote it something longer than that, or something?
It depends on. By our policy and theirs too, you have to have 3 years on plus a degree to be able to promote to the rank of detective. And so, do you have some folks that do that? Yes, because they qualify. For some folks, they might never promote. For some folks, they wait 6, 7, 8 years. But you have to remember they have 3 times the amount of detectives that we do. And so they promote more detectives on a yearly basis than we do.
And they allow lateral transfers?
Yes, they do.
We don't.
No, we do.
We do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Great, Sheriff. Thank you for the presentation. One thing you didn't cover is that you have been talking to us about potential reductions. I have a question on one reduction. Inmate medical. Well, what is inmate medical? The medical budget over there, I know, is significant.
About $10 million.
$10 million. And it's hard
to go up. Again, it goes up by about 3% every year because of costs and inflation.
Okay. I guess let me ask the question a different way. You have 2 social workers that are on staff over there. Are they on staff from the sheriff's department, or are they ComCare workers that are over there?
They are paid for through our budget. So
Okay.
they're staff that belongs to the sheriff's office.
911 has 2 ComCare employees that are working consoles over there. Are they 911 employees or ComCare employees?
I believe those are ComCare employees. But I'll let Rusty correct me if I'm incorrect.
Okay. The ComCare financial situation is rather unique because of the CCBHC model and the revenues generated. Is there an opportunity to do a similar model at 911 or at the sheriff's office with his social workers that we do with 911 with the ComCare folks there? Is that an opportunity?
We are looking into that. It's going to depend on the type of work they're doing and the folks who are receiving the service and whether that's something that ComCare revenues can be used for. And it looks like Rusty has maybe other comments to make too.
Department of Corrections had that model at one point, but they weren't able to do it.
Got it. Okay.
So it kind of depends on
it.
Staffing.
Well, what I'm trying to do is find ways. He talked about health and wellness on there as one of the strengths, and that's partially part of the retaining piece of it. And I'm not just talking about his staff. I'm also talking about the inmates that are in there and the work that they do. So finding ways to offset his budget with other revenues and other departments, I think, is something like we've done at 911. It's something that I'd be really curious about. Other than that, I don't have any questions. Sheriff, you've briefed us, and I know you're working hard to honor some of the things that we're trying to accomplish as we work hard to try to honor what it is that you do as our elected sheriff. So
we appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll be hearing from our district attorney, Mark Bennett. Be on page 470 of your binders.
Mr. Bennett, sir, welcome.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. So, give you some sense of, again, I know some of this is old hat for some of you, but this is the staffing table for the office. Get my color coordinated part of this right. We're doing pretty good compared to where we would have been a couple of years ago. I can attribute it to only one thing, and that's the raises that we were given. If I shoot from the hip with numbers, I'm very likely to miss what I'm shooting at. So I'll just say we had 11 to 12 plus vacancies, FTEs in our attorney ranks a year to 18 months ago. And now with the raises, we've been able to not only hire, but retain. And actually, I had somebody come back who had left to another jurisdiction, was prosecuting in a neighboring jurisdiction. She came back because we were competitive. No longer had to commute 40 minutes a day. Had somebody who was getting ready to leave to one of those other communities when literally I found out the week that we were getting the raises. So she stayed. So, I mean, literally it has a real world day-to-day in real time consequence, these raises. So we're still a few short in the adult criminal, but that's to be expected. 3 or 4 vacancies we're built for that. We can handle that, and we're hiring and we'll continue to do so. Again, some of this for folks who've not seen this before, just briefly, most of the things like the sheriff, most of the things we do are statutorily required. We have a few luxury items, but I think when you look at those luxury non-mandatory items, they're the types of things that our community expects us to do. So adult diversion, traffic diversion, a consumer protection unit. Just briefly, I'll say, we probably issue more press releases about consumer fraud, consumer protection issues for the community than anything else. We get money back. We warn people about businesses that are, fraudulent. We have had a significant impact on, I think, on correcting behavior out there. If you know that there's somebody looking over your shoulder, you might be disinclined to misbehave. So these are things I wouldn't want to pass or to give up. Investigations unit, again, there are things that our investigators do. I'll just say it this way. When I have people who have been police officers for 30 and 40 years who, when they retire from day-to-day carrying a gun, working for the police department, typically, when they leave, I can either let them leave and they can go retire. Or if I bring them over, I bring that institutional knowledge over. And we've got just 3 people off the top of my head. I can tell you, I have nearly 120 years of experience. I bring that to bear every day, helping us with our cases. And it's a tremendous benefit to our community. We've got investigators who are literally chasing down Bitcoin and things that people get scammed out of all the time. There's no bandwidth anywhere else for this other than our office. So we don't have to do it, but I'm telling you, these are the kind of things the community really benefits from. So drug court, veterans court, everybody knows what those are and how they, these are things the community has demanded of us and we have provided. And I would say the collective. Statistics. These are going to be by case. So just for instance, one thing that jump off the page, homicides, you'll see that compared to the next slide, which has to do with crime rates. They're a little bit different. These are cases filed. So there might be, let's say 10 homicides, but we have 14 homicide cases. Well, it's because of co-defendant cases. So the numbers are a little bit off if you compare it to the next slide, but that's the explanation for that. Again, you can see the trends over 5 years and see, we're hovering around 30,000 cases that we handle in the course of a year. Now, a bulk of that, 2/3 of that's going to be traffic, which is always a ton. But even criminal, child needed care, juvenile care and treatment, these are day-to-day cases that require human beings to stand in a courtroom in front of a district court judge, stand up on behalf of the state of Kansas and make our case. So these are the crime trends. Again, I don't think there's anything here that haven't been exposed to in one corner or another. But generally speaking, things are trending in the right direction. There are any number of reasons for that. We could go into depth, but this is a budget presentation. I'm guessing you're interested in keeping it short. So I'll read the room. Property crimes briefly. Again, this is more for your edification. If you want to look at it later, it's there. So, but property crimes, compare Sedgwick County to Kansas, and these are KPI numbers. So. And then violent crime, we have the unpleasant distinction of being a little higher, but again, another conversation for another day perhaps. But this is really offered only insofar as it helps you to foresee where things might go in the future. If you know what the crime trends are, you know what my needs are likely to be. This, to me, I thought was interesting the way you've asked for this, and this is a good way to gives you a state of the union from state of the state, state of the DA's office. So strengths, staffing levels due to compensation. I mean, I can unequivocally say that the compensation package that was approved last year or the last 3 years has been hugely impactful for us. New case management system. It's on the onboarding is ongoing. We're hope to have it done by the end of the year. I really think it's going to be a game changer for us in terms of our efficiencies and how we run our office. The current records management system, we call it Justware, that has run our office, I think was 2003. That sound right, John? Seven, excuse me. Everything feels like it's 5 years ago to me. But at any rate, it's been the same. I mean, think about 2007 technology compared to today. I mean, it's going to be a game changer. So we're excited about about the opportunities that new records management system is going to afford to us. Increased emphasis on training, especially for attorneys kind of like Jeff. I can't send people to training when I have to have bodies in chairs because I don't have enough attorneys to make the demands of the courtroom every day. So when I have enough folks, I can send somebody to a training occasionally to give them better training. Down below, we'll just go around opportunities, rapidly advancing technologies, new AI tools, treatment courts, alternative docket strategies, et cetera. These are all opportunities for us right now. I'll speak about the AI tools here in a moment. Weaknesses, overload of continuing and a continuing increase in digital discovery. Just very briefly, you'll see a slide momentarily. We handle a lot of information on a day-to-day basis. I mean, a ton of information. We were getting up to the point with body cameras and cell phones. We download cell phones. And even if it has nothing to do with a sex offense, before I can download it, give it back to the defense attorney who can then look at the phone from the witnesses in the shooting case. I have to make sure there's no child porn on there because a 19-year-old guy who's a suspect in a shooting might have pictures of a 17-year-old girlfriend. And if she's on there at 17, that's child porn. I cannot, it violates federal law for me to even disseminate it. It would then violate federal law for that defense attorney to possess it. Hugely impactful. So we go through every one of these. I will tell you that we are working closely. Jim was in a meeting with us the other day at EMCU Board of Directors, and our ICAC director, the command staff level at ICAC, which is Internet Crimes Against Children, they're test firing right now beta testing a software, an AI-driven software that has, so the comparison is they had one of their investigators it took him 5 days to review a cell phone. And in those 5 days, he found 10, 15 images that would have been illicit. He could not transfer. But 5 days of looking at thumbnails of a photo, I mean, all day long, every day, just mind-numbing stuff. And then if you find something, it's the most god-awful stuff you've ever seen. They ran it through the same program, and in 25 minutes, they found all the same photos. I'm like, I want a piece of that. I want on board that train, whatever that is. If they can bless it at the police department, we can then use it. Then I can scrub things. The amount of how much quicker I'll get discovery out is going to be astonishing. We were at 6-7 weeks 2 months ago in getting discovery out. That's unacceptable. From the time I file a case to have it take 6 or 7 weeks to get it to the defense attorney is too much. So we just did a unilateral decision to give them documents first. We'll get you the phones, we'll get you the photos, the videos later. But let's get you the documents. We cut it to 10 days. So to have a software that would give us the same net effect and knowing that we could give clean phones and images, et cetera. I mean, we're talking, we did 308 of those last year, 308 cell phones alone, okay? Assuming someone could do that for 8 hours a day effectively, we figured it would take 3 people full-time for an entire year just to do that task. And if I can do it now in 25 minutes per, I mean, it's half an FTE for a quarter of the time. So opportunities. I mean, literally, let's harness with all this crap we're having to deal with, maybe there's some other technology that will help us deal with it. And so the AI is catching up. It's a good thing. Weaknesses, no regional law school. I beat that into the ground. You know that I'm in conversations right now with both at least with one of the law schools, and there's others communicating with the other one. My goal would be by the time I leave to at least have a handshake with one of the law schools in Kansas that they would be interested in putting a campus in Wichita. It would be a game changer for the region and for my office and for the practice of law in South Central Kansas. One bad thing is and this is also weakness is also a threat. When we lost some people because of the period of time when we were not competitive financially, we lost some folks. And then just necessarily, some of us are sadly getting older. I was told that wasn't going to happen, but it seems to creep up on you. And after 30 years of doing this myself, I don't have another 30 in me, folks. So there's my offices, the people at the command staff level are aging. I got a lot of kids and I got people moving up. So, we're trying the best we can to get everybody trained and keep those folks here so that we have a good major league. We have got a good 1 and 2A, AA ball. But AAA was suffering a bit because those are the ones who left after 5 years. And so we're going to try to keep that going. So anyway, volume of discovery. This just gives you a sense of things. Insofar as this means anything to you, the bottom left or bottom corner is the one that jumps off the page at me. 30 terabytes of information last year is what we passed through our hands functionally, either explicitly or by way of links and sending things on. We had one case last year in 2024 that had 211,000 video clips of surveillance camera recordings. One case. There's a lot of stuff for people to review, handle, copy, turn it over to the defense. It's just huge. Discovery challenges. I've kind of hit it. Body cameras, security videos, all these things. We have 6 FTEs now in our discovery unit alone. When I started in the office, the discovery unit was each of you were responsible for your own case. They hand you a file, you stand at the copy machine, make copies, you give it to the defense attorney. Discovery was done. You could take a file home on a Thursday night and be ready for trial on Monday. Now, you're lucky if you got a couple of weeks of notice beforehand, you'd barely be able to be ready because there's just such a volume. So these are all, I'm just kind of giving you the sense of things in the office. Again, AI tools can help. This is the same budget slide you've seen with everyone else. And I think Commissioner Howell's points about the distinction between the 2 years have been made, but I don't think I have much else to add to that other than what's already been said. Budget request. Let's see here, all funds included. And then we get to the decision package. I really don't have much this year. This is one request is $53,000. So that's my entire package request for next year. It's something we have done for at least 25 years. And it's what we call duty pay. So every day of the week, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, we have 2 attorneys who are on call 24 hours a day. And they are there to answer phone calls from law enforcement at any hour of the day to assist with search warrants. And if need be, go out to the scene. And years ago we did that, and you would try to use the county car, and you have a submit vouchers and things for if you use your own car. And finally, Mrs. Folston decided, let's just do it's $200 a week at the time, and about 2,000 when we went to this, or 99 somewhere in there. And now we're up to $400, something like that. It's a nominal fee. You don't get anything else for it, but it's a way to incentivize people to go. At least if you get woken up at all hours of the day, and you don't get the day off the next day if you're up all night, you got to go to court the next day and do your thing. But it helps us. In my mind, it's a couple of things. There's a professional understanding with the courts that we're not going to wake up a judge in the middle of the night unless one of us has at least read it and blessed it. Doesn't mean it's perfect, and a judge can still say no, but we're not going to wake them up for a document that might have typos and just not lay out anything close to approximate probable cause. It's also a way for us to ensure that we're finding problems before they arise. Did you do we don't direct investigations, but we do ask questions to make sure that the things are being done correctly. I won't say a whole lot because I got conscripted into service to help with this, but there was a fairly famous case just a few miles north of here where a warrant was submitted to a judge that did not go through that level of rigor and caused all kinds of problems. And there are ongoing pieces of litigation that are going to cost that little county dearly. When was the last time that happened here? Yeah, so this is a nominal set of fees to incentivize and frankly thank the lawyers who give up their time 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, several times a year with this. So 53 grand is my grand total for my ask next year. Last thing I'll say is, and I obviously emphasized it several times, is the compensation. I'm not asking for anything additional, but I do ask that as you wrestle with these very difficult issues and the ongoing debate about how to fund community safety, courts, DA, sheriff, emergency services, et cetera, and the issues attendant with that, especially with respect to property taxes and how much you're having to wrestle with those issues. I get it. I would just ask that you continue to keep me in mind. And as we step up, just make those steps as they can so that I can keep the pace, because I can tell you, people with professional degrees don't grow on trees, and it's getting more and more expensive to go to that law school that doesn't exist around here yet. Right. And if we're going to keep folks here, I need to continue to pay them. And if ever any of us question about what the value so it wasn't modest. It's a significant pay increase. If we weren't sure what that would do, all you had to do is look at the last 3 years for me, going from 11, 12 open FTEs to 2 and 3. It makes all the difference in the world. So keep us in mind and help us keep pace so that we can continue to offer the best service for the citizens of Sedgwick County who expect when they come to court, if they're a victim of a crime or if they're on a jury, that they see a professional, experienced person sitting at the state's council table and rise to say on behalf of the state.
That's good. Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, Commissioner, any questions? Commissioner Howe.
Thank you, Chairman. Just curious on that, on one of the last slides here, you talked about the duty pay. I assume that these attorneys are exempt, or I guess we use the word unclassified. All right. So duty pay would be in addition to their exempt salary. How do you determine how much to pay them if it's duty pay? How's that work?
The flat fee that I've given, we paid it out of salary savings for the past 25 years. I've never put it on a line item, and we were asked to do that. Let's put it this way: if you say no to this, unless there's a problem with it, we'll just continue to do it out of salary savings. And we just give a flat fee we have 2 different rates. It's backup duty and duty. The only distinction, it's an internal distinction between homicides and things like that. More serious cases that if you go out, you might be out all night. Whereas you're doing like a drug search warrant or something, it's probably a 1 hour affair for you to handle the whole thing. So primary duty, backup duty, and we set it internally.
So right now you're down 6 FTE, and if you were full staff and there was no salary savings, would they have the option of doing what I would call maybe a comp time thing where they can work these?
We'd have to do something, or they just wouldn't get paid. Right. For this.
Right.
And I'm asking again professionals to go out and be on call, 24 hours a day. It just seemed like, again, this is something that Nola came up with 25 years ago to incentivize it, because she's having trouble getting people who wanted to do it. Okay. And again, I can tell you, as somebody who in the late 90s was one who submitted when I drove across town for that 11 miles, was that, and the last time I filled up with gas was it was just almost insulting for a bunch of lawyers. So
we have some type of way to know how much duty pay we've been paying out in the past. Is there a way to?
I can tell you exactly what it is for the last 25 years. Yeah.
That'd be good to see that number if that's okay.
It's like I said, I think it was 200 for the first. It rose incrementally. It went to 275. Then I think now I want to say 400. I think it is per. So, or maybe it's 400 for duty and a primary, and 375 or 300 for backup. Again, it's just something we said. What? Dollars per week.
Per week.
For the week. Yeah. $300 or $400 for a week of being on call.
If I'm
pretty de minimis. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think this 53,650 is based on what you actually paid last year, correct?
Yeah.
So that's how much it typically winds up being on an annual basis.
Okay. Again, if you don't have full staff 100% of the year, you're going to have some salary savings, and these are professionals. So I think the salary, by having even a couple positions unfilled, would be.
Oh, yeah, the money, to be sure, the money will, I have every expectation is typical will be there. If it isn't, I'll probably come to Lindsay and go, we're 25 grand short. Could you help? I just think Tom and I talked about this last year and said, while we're doing these kind of things, put it on the, that's the way it's a line item and everybody knows exactly where the money's going. So that's it.
I think I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Mark, I one last, just a thought. What I learned really quickly, this is my third budget. My first budget year is that when Rusty Leeds was a detective, they did a lot of the discovery. That your office is now doing a lot of discovery. I appreciate that SWOT analysis because I know it's a lot of things are a lot more complex now, and your office needs to do the discovery because of video evidence and all these different things. And you mentioned that SWOT analysis. Any sort of technology or AI that would help your people do this work. It sounds like you already have some of this, but I would be interested in finding ways to support your office in technology that helps make this work much easier, because the workload is just insane to me.
I will say 70,000 foot view. This is the kind of thing that over time, I have no doubt. I've had these conversations with Joe Sullivan. I have no doubt that the WPD is having the same thought. I know that Jeff Easter is having the same conversations. I doubt that Mount Hope and Garden Plain probably have the bandwidth for this, but that's where we can step in and help when they supply us. Their police department supplies. So I don't think my office has to take the entire burden on. It's just, to be candid, the private industry is making money, is doing a very good business model of putting body cameras on cops. And there's people making a ton of money on that right now. That's great. And then there's DA's officers going, time out. What the hell am I supposed to do with this pile of digital evidence? Now people are going, there's a business opportunity there. Yeah, sure. So time will catch up with it. Okay. If I knew there was a program that I needed the money for, let me tell you, brother, it'd be a decision package number 2 right now. It's just not there yet. Okay. Because ICAC's working on it. I'm gonna win them for the moment and get behind them and see what they've got. Over time, I expect there to be more, and I expect that to help us gain efficiencies.
Good note. I appreciate that. Last note, just that I'm also talking to some regents about what you're trying to do at the law school, and I just publicly I appreciate your advocacy for that, and it's being felt with the regents and the need here. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. Like I said, if Oklahoma City law school wants to come up, I'm all ears, man. Anybody who wants to fill the void, we need it.
Okay, Mark. Thank you so much. Appreciate all the work you do. Hey, Lauren.
Okay, next we'll be moving to District Court on page 488 of your binders, and Chief Judge Gearing and Joni Wilson are here.
Chief Judge. Well, Judge, good to see you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. I'm going to maybe give you the 30,000 foot view and then turn it over to Joni and she can get into the details.
Yes.
Currently, we have 31 judges in the 18th Judicial District. I can tell you that when the 3 new judges arrived a couple of years ago, we did not have space for them. As we sit now, we have every judge in a courtroom. We're still working with staff through some warranty issues on the courtrooms, but they are usable and they're being used. So we can take a little breath of relief on that. The presentation today is pretty straightforward and pretty basic. I'll give you the overview of the 2 decision packages. The first one has to do with the flooring in certain areas of the courthouse. This is carpet that is old, deteriorating, past any sort of rehabilitation. You can clean it, and then a week later, what you hoped you got out of the carpet shows back up. The last suite that we put carpet in, we had to do asbestos remediation for the tiles underneath the carpet, which gives you some idea of how old this carpet is. We're not asking to have carpet that could be rehabilitated, replaced, but this really is flooring that is well past its useful life and needs to be replaced. The second package is very modest. I don't know if any of you remember the layout of the 11th floor civil clerk's office, but there is a counter that covers a part of it, and then there's an opening which allows people to walk into the workspace where the clerks are. Didn't used to be a problem, but we're getting more and more disgruntled customers that take their disgruntledness out on our clerks. And we don't think it's a good idea for them to have ready and easy access to get back to the workspace. So what we're proposing in the second decision package is to basically wall off the clerks with counter space so they have secure access into their workspace, and the general public doesn't have easy access back in there. We're viewing that more as a security problem than anything else. And like I say, it's a very modest ask. So with that, I'll turn it over to Joni, and she'll give you the 10,000-foot view.
Judge. Hey, Joni, welcome.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us. I'm going to just skip to this slide right here. We have a lot fewer employees that the county is responsible for, as most of our positions are funded by the state. Start with district court. We have 3 full-time equivalent positions. All but 1/2 are filled. One of those positions you gave us last year, and it has been a tremendous help to our pro se litigants. I hear great remarks about the work she does continually, so thank you for that. And then also we have our court trustee non-4D office. This office is self-funded through the collections. They take 3.5% of the child support and or spousal support they collect. In 2024, they collected just shy of 29 million, and their 3.5% fee netted them $1,019,643. So they are self-funded. One of our other district court positions is at least in part funded by the class fees that she organizes that is held for parents with children going through divorce actions. This is a list of the mandatory services that we provide in district court. This is what the county funding goes to support. The majority of our fees have always been attorney fees. So that's not going to change going forward. We are not asking for an increase. Currently, you pay them $100 per hour if they're paid on an hourly basis. And the contracts that we have with the other attorneys have remained the same this year. And this is kind of a look at our SWOT analysis also. I want to start with our strengths being our judges and our staff. We have been extremely fortunate. Also, because of the funding increases that the state has allowed us, we get more applicants, we get more qualified applicants as well. We work with different specialty courts and dockets. And we have a strong working relationship with our stakeholders, which is extremely helpful. Opportunities, we are looking to open a self-help center on site. Real quickly, what we do offer right now without a room to house these people in, KLS comes on Wednesdays all day, deals with civil litigants, pro ses. We have a volunteer attorney that comes 2 half days. We have a eviction diversion coordinator on site funded by the state. And we also provide assistance to plaintiffs in PFAs and PFAs, sorry. So we do already have a robust system. My dream is to someday have a room so people can go to one place, get the help they need, and we can send them elsewhere if we need to. We also have on site at the law library, people can also go and use Bradley software, which calculates child support worksheets. So it's good right now, but we still want to do better there. We are supposed to be getting a new version of Enterprise, formerly known as Odyssey. We're waiting. And we're looking forward to that because it has additional functionality that will help us. That will be beneficial. We're waiting on a new jury system. The announcement is supposed to come out pretty quickly. I think they've made their decision, but that will be huge for us also. And thanks to your dollars, we're also utilizing that for training of staff. We have historically not provided enough training to our clerks, and we're doing that, and some more management training. And that's really been helpful, and hopefully we're growing our staff. And after we grow them, they may leave. That's okay. They're going to be happy and do a good job for us while they're here. Weaknesses, we have a huge turnover in the clerk's office for a variety of reasons. Probably pay is the most often the reason given for people leaving. The inability to produce custom reports in a timely manner from Odyssey has been a challenge for us. And then also a lack of space for self-help center. The threats, I mean, the biggest fear for us is another cyber attack, of course. That was a wretched experience, and it took quite a lot of work from everyone to dig back out of that paperwork. And then also tighter labor supply, not knowing what's coming. So, let's see. Here's a look at the district court funds. And I'm assuming that the reduction is the same as other, which is the benefit package. And again, just to break down, I'm not going to bore anybody with reading numbers because y'all have been here long enough. And Judge touched on the decision packages. I feel like relative to the past few years, what we've asked for, this is a little bit less. We're asking for a little over $52,000 for new flooring in several of the judges' chambers and connecting staff offices and libraries. And then the second is to shore up our civil clerk's offices so we can keep people from going back into the back when they are upset. This office deals with the highest volume of cases, including evictions, difficult time in people's lives. So, and we're also using some of our funding this year to shore up other offices. We're doing some different lock systems. So it's a priority, staff safety. This is our non-4D SWOT analysis. This is a great group of individuals that we're lucky to have. Their strengths are timely setup of cases or new orders, issuance of income withholding orders. They provide quality customer service. They do have a staff that have been around quite a while, strong working relationship with courts and private counsel, opportunities to automatically enforce both child support and spousal support, enforce all spousal orders that are filed. Right now, they have to wait for a party to request enforcement. Weaknesses is difficulty filling one of their front office positions, competitive wage for some positions, reduced caseload due to cases moving to the 4D child support provider, limited conflict attorneys for evidentiary hearings, and inability to access child needed care cases in Odyssey. They've been eliminated from access when Odyssey came up. Threats, retirement of long-term staff, all cases statewide may be being enforced by 4D child support, increased case transition from non-4D to 4D, 4D cases having access to more administrative options, and then the increasing cost of the administrative fee. Just a quick summary of our decision packages. And that's it.
Donnie, very helpful, Judge. I really appreciate it. When you said Odyssey, I got to chill up my spine. And I look back and guys with Greg hand in the back. And yeah, Greg's back there. He's still standing. So, hey, Tanya, would you be able to get us? I saw the quotes in the back, particularly on the clerk's desk area. That it does feel like that seems to be a priority based on some of the things you described. So, would you give us some information? I don't know if maybe Andrew can help us with that, understanding what needs to be done there. So we have a really good. I went through the quotes and all that, but it feels like the judge thinks that's a priority. So, okay. Other questions?
Thanks for the presentation, but also related to the Odyssey solution now, which was a nightmare before. But so the new jury system you referenced, is that another going to be a state mandated like Odyssey was?
It will be. We don't know who the vendor is at this point.
All right. So Greg, we trust you when you advise us the next time.
Yes, sir.
We will not be last. We will not be first.
Yeah.
And along with that, so noted on that. So we would just keep us posted, or Greg and his group.
Yeah.
But you said on the weaknesses about Odyssey, you're missing CINC and JV cases. Is that just
cases?
So
way?
Oh, so in regards to the non-4D department, the state analyzed the statutes and determined that they should not be privy to that information.
Oh.
So a lot of times in child needed care cases, the judge will order child support and left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing sometimes because of the inability to get into the system to find that. And it's confidential. So it kind of puts them.
So we just live with that. That's just it's a weakness, but solutions? No.
No easy ones.
Interesting.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Good to know. Okay, Commissioner Howe.
Thank you, Chairman. Just so last year, after this briefing we had last year, I had some concern about the child support worksheets being filled out correctly. It was going to clog up the courts because it may not be all that intuitive, and people trying to do this on their own, they can't do it correctly. So there was a volunteer last year and before that helped them fill those out. How is that working out today? Is it okay? Is there a problem? Is there?
No, sir. I think it's working really well. The volunteer attorney, he's new from last year.
Okay.
And actually the volunteer attorney we had before that is the one who secured him for the court, and which was great. And so he's there 2 half days a week to help with those child support worksheets that are extremely difficult.
Right.
When I met with him during orientation to get him up to speed on what our expectations were, I made it clear that our expectations were that we want the child support worksheets given priority. That this is really what is where the need is. And if you want to expand beyond that, I mean, your horizons are limitless. But what the judges really needed was the child support worksheets to be filled out correctly so that the motions that they depend on can be adjudicated timely. And I think that's working out very well.
One other question, it was in the news, I think a week ago, that I'm not sure if it's a federal grant. I guess it's a federal grant that passed through the state that pays for CASAs, and that's been interrupted. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, if the state's going to find other revenues or what is it? What's going to happen to the CASA situation if we don't? I mean, I'm just very concerned about this. It's a pretty big deal. So.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm not sure. I don't have really anything to do with the CASAs.
Just everyone that's a court-appointed special advocate. And
yeah.
It's for children, and basically it's a friend of the child. It's not an ad litem attorney, but it's just a person basically comes alongside and gives some stability to a child that's got a disruptive life.
We can reach out to Judge Macias. He's a presiding juvenile judge, and find out whatever information you think.
I think it's a pretty, as far as I know, the decision's already here. And so I know years ago, there was some judges that were advocating for us to fund some of those. I don't think we were ever going to get to that, but I am concerned that it is disrupted, and it's how important the CASAs are. Like we just did a proclamation a couple of weeks ago on CASAs. And so I think we need to have a discussion and a plan. Are we going to ask the state for some help, or what are we going to do? Again, I don't know why there's a cost necessarily if it's, the costs are essentially volunteers. I'm not sure what the cost is in terms of administrating the cost of program.
Right. It would be the personnel costs of the people running that program.
So
And
again,
any cost of how, if they have a building, I'm sure they have offices somewhere. They used to be housed in the juvenile courthouse, and I worked there in the early 90s. They had their own offices there, so we probably didn't charge them, but now they're not on site.
Okay, thank you for that. And I look forward to having more discussion about what we need to do on that because that's perfect. Thank you.
So thank you. Okay. Chief Judge Joni, thank you so much. Appreciate you guys so much. Yeah. Okay, Lauren.
We have a break scheduled. Do you still want to take a short break?
Why don't we take a little break?
Okay.
I think that'd be helpful for those around the table. It is 3:05. Tom, you think 3:15 is okay? 10 minutes? Okay. Have you been? Good. Hi, Nicole. Sure.
You want me to exercise stuff here at the schedule?
She sets on all the time. I don't.
I need that.
I noticed I didn't know it rolled when I sat on it. And I rolled.
Yeah, well, I thought.
I got rolled right off it.
I thought you were saying when you kicked it. Sorry.
Did I kick a point? I probably did. I'm trying to get it. I'm kidding. All right.
I've only been doing the budget for the.
I heard it. I was like, oh, this ran.
Okay, during all these sitting sessions. Actually, that's all I used to have in my own lunch. I just had if that's your interest, we can get you your check. That's what I told her daughter. Right. I asked for extra, we're like, you not need extra. She's like, no, that. That's what you're like, we need to get check. Don't look at that. Right. Forever.
IT.
Feeling of their daughter. And then you were just at that age where like we just were enough to like that's good for the soul food. Eyeball, but it is. You're going across, so it'll be fine. Not anymore. Make the rest of us feel better, but I don't want it to be a problem.
What's mine in there? So again, I have no idea. But I have another one. Literally the very thing I want to bring up. I think when the DA gets all that video still on. If they have sufficient evidence to make their case, they should have.
If they don't know. Actually,
This thing is 20 officers.
Yep.
I see very clearly on the. I think that's what that is.
But it's not just about evidence. What you're doing. Well, guys, have an obligation to also see if there's anything that really. So that first day, he just lays there.
We'll be on page 165 for the Division of Information Technology. So I'll hand it over to Joe Courier.
Yes, Joe, welcome.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you. I'm Joe Courier, your IT Security Manager with the Division of Information Technology. I have the distinct privilege of presenting to you our budget request for 2026. We'll start off with our workforce. We have a total of 77.5 FTEs with 4 vacancies. One of those in our director's office for our CIO, which has been filled and will start next week. So looking forward to that. IT is broken out into 4 main areas: Business Solutions Group, Enterprise Resource Planning, IT Infrastructure, and IT Security. And the directors here are going to help me present today. So IT, we operate under guidelines from CJIS, HIPAA, and PCI standards. These cover topics such as data encryption, access control, authentication, security awareness training, incident response, communications protections, mobile device security, and data backup, a full gamut of everything there. And while the payment card industry digital security standards are not in statute, they are mandatory for us to follow if we want to continue to accept card payments for county services such as taxes. These standards are set by a group of major payment card companies: Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, and JCB. For our SWOT analysis, our strengths, the information technology sector is characterized by rapid technological advancements leading to new solutions and capabilities. You've heard AI already, and then I'm sure you'll continue to hear about that today. We have a highly skilled workforce, very talented workforce in IT, and we do invest regularly in training opportunities. We have a capacity to integrate third-party vendor platforms for data exchange, enhancing efficiency, flexibility, and scalability. And we have a minimum turnover and near full staffing thanks to competitive pay, flexible and remote work environment. For our weaknesses, we still rely on some outdated technology systems that are costly to maintain, difficult to integrate with new technologies, and pose security risks. SAP is discontinuing the support for some of our older versions of ERP systems, forcing upgrades to newer cloud versions. In some cases, these cloud versions have yet to have a public sector customer, and in some cases require a significant learning for our folks in the organization. Privacy and data classification. While much of our data is classified in databases, there's a lot of unstructured data on our file shares that pose challenges when considering AI and data loss prevention. Moving on to opportunities. We have the state and local cybersecurity grant program. We received funding for that last year. And we have 2 more requests or projects out there submitted to look at that. Hoping we'll hear more about that towards the end of the year. Next, digital transformation of documentation for storage and retrieval. Collaboration with community partners and other government IT teams to achieve shared goals and find collaboration opportunities. And with the new SAP systems being added and upgraded, we have the opportunity to increase our recruiting power. We can integrate our planning, business intelligence, analytics solution into a single platform and provide real-time predictive analysis, improving data transparency and accountability. And moving on to threats, of course, cybersecurity being one of the top ones for us, the increasing sophistication and frequency of cyber attacks continue, and they pose a significant and evolving threat to IT infrastructure and data security. We also have concerns with federal funding reductions. I spoke earlier about a grant, and we are concerned with that being reduced, along with tariffs driving up costs, supply chain issues where manufacturers are not able to get parts or products, and then quantum computing with the rapid advancement of quantum computing could potentially render encryption methods obsolete. So I'll move on to our business solutions group and hand it over to Greg Gann.
Thank you, Joe. Greg Gann, Business Solutions Group Director. BSG, as we lovingly refer to ourselves internally, it's a lot easier to say. And that's the only one I'm going to use today. I promise you. So one of the key components is our Geographical Information Systems Group. Jack Joseph leads that group. And if you've ever been to the county website, you've seen some of their good work, not only in the mapping, but in the dashboards, COVID specifically, when we went through that. that along with our web team kept that updated and very useful to the public. We provide integrated graphic mapping and analysis. We are the primary provider of GIS data for the Wichita-Sedgwick County region, data and services provided to citizens, county staff, municipalities, public and private organizations. Key services are data development, spatial data analysis and visualization, application development, enterprise system support, and other cartographic products. Project management, another of our group inside BSG. They plan, perform, and direct concurrent IT projects, related activities for the county and our partners. We coordinate the work of technical professional teams responsible for the definition, design, development, and implementation of IT business solutions and small to large IT-related projects in diverse functional areas and one or more assigned county departments. Our project managers are award-winning. The Business Journal has taken notice of them, and we really appreciate that. They are directly responsible for the projects from the time the requests for services are received until the needed support is delivered and even after the fact. Application management provides the function of managing these application software packages, the maintenance, the versioning, the upgrades, whether purchased or built in-house. Through an application's entire life cycle. Application management is an enterprise-wide approach geared to providing optimal application performance benchmarks while incorporating business processes and IT methodologies. Our key service areas within application management are the tax system, document imaging and management, and our public safety system support. Our IT application development team, this is where some amazing work happens. They customize, enrich, and maintain the software environments used by county departments and partners to ensure the needed functionality being safe, secure, and available. Database services, a key component of application development, manages hundreds of unique databases, ensuring departments have access to critical data across the clock. They've done a remarkable job in reducing our footprint of numbers of database servers and using, whenever possible, common servers to share data, and it's all compartmentalized and safe and secure. Internet services provides internet, intranet, and extranet application management and site hosting for Sedgwick County. It supports the county intranet site, sedgwickcounty.org. I hope that many people go there often and use it to its fullest extent. 24 separate applications provided so citizens can access various e-government services, which enable them to do county business anytime without having to call or travel downtown. In the last year, we did over 16 million visits to the site. And with that, I'll turn this over to Gina. All right. Technology, who would thought? In business solutions, that's our budget slightly down. I have 3 open positions right now, so that's why there's a decrease. As soon as those are filled, that'll even up. And now, this is our one alternative reduction. When we moved to Parcel Fabric, which was an improvement for GIS, we no longer need to spend $8,100. So that's off my budget now. Now, there's the package. And now it's Gina's turn.
Good afternoon. My name is Gina Gillespie. I am the ERP director. The core responsibility of ERP is to support Sedgwick County financial system and the HR system and any interface-facing applications, along with supporting both the Division of Finance and HR. ERP also provides business analytics service and support to the entire organization for creating reports and dashboards. In ERP, I supervise 12 full-time employees, 3 analysts that support HR, 3 analysts that support finance, 3 analysts that support analytics, and 3 additional staff that support other ERP functions like system infrastructure, system security, and programming. The mission of ERP is to improve government decision-making through business process engineering, business analytics, and innovative application of ERP technology. ERP's budget is funded entirely through the general fund. This year, the budget is $4,386,216 and a 1.9% decrease from 2025. Looking at each of the individual budget categories, you can see that there is a 3.2 decrease for personnel, a 1% decrease for contractuals from 25 to 26. And again, the overall budget is a 1.9 decrease from 2025 to 2026. And I'm sorry, I missed the commodities. That's flat across. It didn't change from 2025 to 2026. And for the planning packages, alternative reductions, and revenue packages, ERP doesn't have any this year. And with that, I will turn it over to James. Thank you.
Okay, my name is James Arntz. I'm the infrastructure director. Infrastructure has 5 distinct different departments, including customer support, system administration, networking, telecom, and administration. So unlike Greg's group with BSG, if you're seeing most of my guys, it's usually a bit major problem. Our guys are the ones that kind of hide in the hole and try not to be seen, and you hope not to see them. Currently, I have about 16 direct reports and 10.5 indirect reports that answer directly to me, which brings me to, let's see, I think our only decision package, right, for IT. What we're requesting is a full-time IT manager. Let's see. In the past, there was an IT security manager, but that position was cut and placed under the IT infrastructure director. At the end of last year, a decision was made to restructure IT and to provide more of a focus on cybersecurity, which shifted back to having a dedicated IT manager over IT security. The IT manager position that used to manage system administration, networking, and telecom was shifted to IT security, removing a critical management role, and those departments that had a manager before were placed directly under the infrastructure director. The action of removing the manager role removed a vital management layer and has overwhelmed the infrastructure director position. The decision package, if approved, would place a manager back into that critical position and would have oversight of 12 staff. The recreation of this position will significantly enhance our ability to manage systems administration, networking, and telecommunications effectively, ultimately leading to a better service quality, team morale, and overall efficiency. One of our first alternative reduction packages is about $10,000 a year savings. This is due to a switch we made with the previous internet service provider. During our contract term, we analyzed different options that would help save money and provide the same or better service for the county internet connection. We found a provider that exceeded our needs, and when our contract came up for renewal, we did not renew and switched to a new provider. A second alternative reduction is referenced, I believe, on page 182 in the budget book. However, just recently we pulled this due to an issue with the software that was purchased, and we're looking at different alternatives to replace that software. The money that was being offered as an alternative reduction might be needed for next year for that replacement. If it's found that the money is not needed, we'll resubmit the alternative reduction during the next budget cycle. The second alternative reduction deals with network infrastructure for the county. For many years, maintenance costs for our current hardware and the maintenance was quickly skyrocketing, causing an increased request in budget every year. To help combat the increase in costs, we started to do research and review demonstrations and many different networking products. And over these reviews, after these reviews, as well as baseline testing to make sure it met our needs, we went with a different product. We shifted most of our networking to a new vendor. This migration of products saves on initial hardware cost with new switches, access points, and routers that are needed whenever we do building migrations, moves, or just as equipment goes end of life. It also has helped with the maintenance that we have to pay for all that, which was about a $25,000 a year savings. And I will go ahead and hand this back off to Joe.
Thank you, James. So moving on to IT security, of course, I'm the IT security manager and I supervise 4 highly skilled individuals in the IT security team who safeguard the organization's critical infrastructure data and applications from cyber threats by managing essential systems that protect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of our network. Through proactive vulnerability management, the security awareness training, and robust security tools like firewalls and intrusion detection systems, the team minimizes the risk of financial losses, protects sensitive information, and ensures business continuity. So our request for this year, for 2026, is $1,593,958. And there is, like I mentioned earlier, we did have the state and local cybersecurity grant fund that funded our vulnerability management solution that we have in place now for a total of $37,880. And that is not available to us in 2026. And this is how it's broken out for IT security with and finally, our division summary with every group outlined here, our grant fund there, and then the technology review board as well. So overall reduction with that state and local cybersecurity grant program and TRB for 2025. TRB funding is not available for 2026 as it's not been approved and not represented here. The request for TRB you'll hear about on Monday. Without TRB and the grant program there, just looking at the top figures, we are about an 8.5% reduction. This is the division summary. We have 1 decision package, 3 reduction package for your consideration. And I and the directors will stand for any questions.
Yeah, great job. Fantastic job. Your guys' whole department is rather stealthy, but we brag about you frequently and the work that you do and the protection you provide to the county, because we're so diverse with so much revenues generating, so many functions and different functionalities. I mean, I just want to publicly thank you guys for all the work you do. You do a lot of really important work for Sedgwick County.
Thank you, sir.
A question. I'm amazed every single time at how many different functions and softwares and protections that you have layered through. I don't know if this is a question maybe for, I don't know if it's for Greg or if it's for maybe Rusty can help me here, but who manages the spider system for law enforcement? Do we manage that or, okay, we don't do that.
City of Wichita.
City of Wichita does that. Okay. But we access, the sheriff utilizes that. Who else utilizes?
We provide the switches and some equipment, but they provide the space and they provide their staff to run it.
Okay. Do we do services that the city of Wichita access into the way we would access into that? Are there things that on the inverse that we have servers that they, I know I'm catching you off guard on this question, but I'm trying to.
Yeah. Chairman, I'll let Greg go. It's also a good question for the sheriff. He knows this inside and out, but Greg, if you want to come in.
Agreed. Yeah. Sheriff Easter could speak more to that, but Sedgwick County has the computer-aided dispatch for 911 emergency communications. And then there's the records management, jail management system for the sheriff's office. And that is an integrated product that the municipalities within Sedgwick County all have access to. Okay. Law enforcement, all the public safety, they're all interacting with that. And that is on Sedgwick County property. We maintain.
And we don't charge them for that service. This is just things that we do on behalf of our
cost of doing business.
That's right. Okay. Okay. That's helpful. Okay. Commissioner Howe.
Chairman, so back to slide 14 on the package 1. Are these 12 employees currently on staff that need to be supervised, I guess?
So currently they answer directly to me. They're used to. What happened is when Joe shifted over doing IT security, I used to be the manager over those 3 departments. And then I got shifted up to infrastructure director. The 3 departments stayed under me, as well as 2 more were added to me. So they are being managed by me currently. It's just a overload of staff projects.
So the shifting, did that create an unfilled position, or because this says it's a new position?
The infrastructure position or the one being requested?
That Joe shifted up and you shifted up and all that, you're doing some different things. But this package is for a new manager.
Yes, that position was used to fill a void for the cybersecurity side, and it was shifted over to that position. So yes, this would be a brand new position being created, but to fill a role that was previously there. Does that make sense?
Kind of, I guess. Back to that slide, because I think the background does a good job of explaining how that position had morphed over time, and there was that management layer that went away, and this is adding that management layer back in.
And I think it's fair to say, James or Joe, that in the reality in the last 5 years, the security side of the equation in IT has radically changed. And so there was some maneuvering within the department to shore that up at the cost of this. Is that fair to say? So I think the request is to now backfill that back to from whence it was.
I don't know if I have opinion on the goodness or badness of this, but I guess I would just ask, what happens if we did not fund this? What bad thing happens as a consequence of not funding this position? If we chose not to do that, what bad thing happens?
So it is one of those being stretched too thin situations. And just like I said earlier, these three departments: system administration, which deals with over 400 servers. You have networking, which connects all of our servers together, as well as our internet, which also deals with public safety. Telecom, which deals with faxing, with DC-18, 911, I mean, across the board. So with being spread thin, it's hard to be able to maintain and work through all the major projects that are going on. So it hurts morale. It hurts with being able to keep up and make sure that everything is being done the correct way, giving oversight, being able to have the leadership ability to move forward with the rest of the groups and make sure everything's going like it should be.
I can add to that. Yeah, I'd like to add to that answer as well, Commissioner. I think some projects would suffer, some response times would suffer, and just a full gamut of, if we were to try to take that responsibility back on and spread it out, we would just have some troubles meeting timelines. So that's why the request is on the table at this point.
I guess, again, not understanding this fully and still trying to catch up. It sounds like the 12 people are doing actual services to do, solve problems and do, the 12 people are very active in doing what they're doing. The manager is essentially directing them and overseeing them, I assume. So again, the manager's not doing the actual work. The 12 people are doing the work. Managers are making sure they know what to do and they're doing it. So that's how management typically works, right? So I've been in positions in my life where we didn't have managers, but we had, self-reporting, I guess. We would know what needs to be done. We would talk to each other and make sure it gets done. We would report up, but it would not be basically daily, management at the higher level. It would simply be maybe someone who's doing that, but not as directly, so to speak. So again, it's just a question. Again, so in terms of being spread thin, the 12 people are providing the services. I understand that part of it. The question is, do they need to have someone full-time to simply manage those 12 people? That's really, I really don't have an answer to that question right now. I just need to understand it better. Thank you.
Yeah, we back in 2015, we did have a IT security manager. That position was eliminated in 2015 when the position was vacated. And then those responsibilities were rolled to the infrastructure director. That was just what's recently changed this last year, was removing those responsibilities back out and going from there. So,
Bill, Commissioner said something that I want to ask you about. We have a lot of positions in Sedgwick County that are manager or supervisor, and they work. They do frontline level. I want to make sure that I think you understand that these directors all get their hands dirty. They are not just managing people; they are managing system. Is that fair?
That's absolutely correct. A lot of ours, yep.
And not just in IT, but a lot of across the board in a lot of county positions, we have managers that just don't they're actually doing operational work. Unfortunately, that's the state of our organization.
Okay. I think we are good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it and all the work you guys do.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good job.
Okay, next we're moving to the county counselor on page 42 of your budgets. And Justin Wagner is here to present.
The lawyers are here. What page was that again, Lauren? 42. Chief Counsel.
Chairman.
Mr. Wagner, welcome.
They say brevity is the soul of wit. I assume there's some saying that it's also brevity is the key to a successful budget presentation after a day full of meetings, right?
That's good.
All right, Justin Wagner, County Councilor, very thankful to be giving you this presentation today for our 2026 budget. We do not have any decision packages in front of you this year. I'll go through the slideshow presentation. This first slide, there's a lot of green on there. We actually just filled, in the last 2 weeks, we filled 2 vacancies that we had in our administrative support staff positions. So we're fully staffed with all our positions. I think it's the first time since 2022 that we've been fully staffed. So that's been very good news. Very excited about what that means. In terms of the mandatory and non-mandatory services, on the left, this is looking at KSA 19247, which is the statute that covers the county councilor position. In Sedgwick County, we have a district attorney and we have a county councilor. Other usually smaller counties have county attorneys that take on both of those functions. So you can see the functions that are mandatory citing to the statute. In Sedgwick County, I have an asterisk. We have a charter resolution that kind of specifies in more detail a distinction between the roles between district attorney and county councilor's office. So all those are on the left, and the mandatory functions. It's the common stuff you think of about legal advice, prosecuting, defending lawsuits, drawing up contracts, resolutions, things like that. And then also there's a number of statutes scattered across the KSAs where county councilors and county attorneys have certain responsibilities. So we also have to perform those. There are non-mandatory functions. The one I have listed is county court. That's the prosecution of county codes and resolutions. And what's non-mandatory about that is the structure that we have with the county court. It's a specialized court that's set up for a streamlined adjudication of county court cases. And so there are judges that are appointed by Judge Gehring to serve as our county court judges. We have a support staff position that's primarily dedicated to that. We have a portion of one of our assistant county counselors' responsibilities involve this work as well. So I note that as a non-mandatory because of the framework. I would note that if the county would end up switching that, we've had it for about 30 years. I do think there would be some budgetary shifting around because you're going to have somebody prosecuting that, whether it's in the county councilor's office, the DA's office, and you may have to also provide district court with funding if you would transition those cases back into the district court. So I have that under non-mandatory, but I want to mention that. I also think I heard Mike Bethune give a similar presentation once or twice during budget that you might have less efficient adjudication of these cases, just simply because we have a dedicated judge in courtroom, and those cases would probably take lower precedence and be administered less efficiently if they were spread out across multiple judges, just because they'd be competing with felony cases and other cases would probably get pushed back on dockets. Under our SWOT analysis, and I know this is a 3-year horizon, under strengths, I noted on there that our attorneys are responsive to clients. We try to be very responsive to requests, not just from commissioners, but elected and appointed officials, department heads, managers' office. Also, we try to pride ourselves on providing proactive legal advice in the best interest of the county. If we see something that's going to be problematic, we try to point it out instead of just being reactive. I think that's in the best interest of the county in helping prevent and reduce lawsuits and claims. Also, in terms of giving you the best advice, making you aware of things. In terms of weaknesses, we have lack of built-up institutional knowledge. Due to turnover, lack of continuity. We have 7 attorneys in our office, and 4 out of our 7 attorneys have only been in the office 2.5 years or less. So we've had a fair amount of turnover. That institutional knowledge is really valuable and helpful in the office. I came into the office when I was a new assistant county counselor. We had a very experienced office, saw the benefits of that. I've worked here 12 years. I think it's been very helpful to have that institutional knowledge, and building that is really valuable across the organization, but certainly in the county counselor's office. Also, the second one on there is the limited number of attorneys with subject-specific knowledge can lead to challenges, especially if we're short-staffed. Our challenge, and I think I said something similar last year in my budget presentation, we represent 46 different departments, elected officials, and then there's specific functions as well that don't even have a department. We have HIPAA, we have CORA, COMA, all the acronyms. we have to advise on all these things, and the practice of law is very specialized. And so we have with a team of 7 attorneys, it's 46 departments. Each of those has different bodies of law. So it's not, there are maybe other functions in the county that IT was just presenting. They do the same IT stuff across the organization. It's a very diverse thing, but they're not having to know specialized knowledge in each of the 46 to the same degree that, oftentimes attorneys have to. So that's a unique challenge that we have. And I'll be frank, we don't have 7 attorneys that are expert on tax appeals. We have Tom Henry, who's an expert on tax appeals and BOTA and knowing that stuff. But I think a weakness that we have is we can't all be experts in those 46 departments. And you'll see that mentioned a little bit next in the opportunities. Last year, the Board of County Commissioners, towards the end of the year, instituted a tier system. And that helps to incentivize cross-training and skills development. Really, as our attorneys gain mastery in new areas, the assistant county counselors, which are the 5 of the 7 attorney positions in our office, allows them to gain increased compensation for those additional skills and capabilities they have. And I have that as an opportunity because we're really early in that process. I mean, we're at, less than half a year in, or right about half a year in. And so I think there's opportunities there for our attorneys to gain new skills, to build more depth within the office. Also, CLE trainings, continuing legal education training, certification programs. I think we're always open to those opportunities. You guys have heard presentations, laws and legal concerns for municipal attorneys are rapidly changing. So we're always interested in finding out what the most up-to-date knowledge is, because these issues that our municipal attorneys across the country or across the state of Kansas encounter are the same issues that we often encounter as a county. So that's very important to us. Under the threats, we have the compensation amounts. We're paid less than our peers in similar positions. And so there's concern, that could lead to folks, a loss of employee. Our City of Wichita, our office, KCK, Wyandotte County, and Johnson County. 2 of those I know have added attorneys in the last couple of years. The other one is planning to add an attorney. We have not added any attorneys. And so that means our attorneys are often stretched very thin with the workload that we have. And so that is a concern, just because our workload has been increasing over the last handful of years. That's probably not a surprise to some of you commissioners that have been here for a while. I just think we've got a very active commission. We've been doing a lot with property around the county. So there's a lot of questions. We've been doing a lot on legislative platforms. So there's a lot of questions and legal work that's entailed. And these last couple slides are just showing changes. We have a very slight change of 0.67% change on overall budget request for 2026. This one shows it broken down. Most of that, I believe, is coming through personnel. Slight changes reflected there. With that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Okay, Justin, thank you. And I whispered to Commissioner Wise that's the first time I'd ever heard you explain the diversity that's needed and the specialty that's needed in your guys' office for 46 departments. So I appreciate that. I think that's helpful. You have great staff and great lawyers working for you and great assistants working for you.
We really enjoy representing you all.
You do a wonderful job. I have a question. We outsource a lot of legal work, trial work, particularly things of that sort. Where is that represented? Is that represented on the budget, Lindsay? I'm looking at page 43. Is that extended counsel and legal?
External counsel and legal expense. If you go over to page 46.
We have that budgeted.
And that is what the actual budget is. Now you'll notice that the actuals relative to the actual budget are significantly different. That's because we'll go to contingency if necessary, but we certainly don't want to count year to year on having, big cases that we need to defend.
Well, my question was, where is that funded? It's funded through contingency.
It's funded. You can see in this recommended, or not a recommended budget. I'm sorry, Lauren. In this request, it's 250,000. So that will be built into the budget as a base.
Correct.
And then as the year goes, if additional funding is needed, Justin will work with the budget office to get additional funds moved over.
Yeah. I guess my question is the financial model of this. Does it make sense to try to give you another FTE or 2, or does this make sense to try to just continue to outsource the legal work?
That's a good question, Chairman, and I think that's a question that some of my predecessors have considered too. The challenge with adding additional FTEs, if you're thinking about adding them to do litigation matters specifically, the challenge there is that somebody who's got the right amount of experience on litigation is not going to come cheap. I mean, in all likelihood, they'll probably command a salary that's pretty high. But also, if you have, I will say, if there are peaks and valleys on litigation, and if you have a whole office full of litigators in our office, there may be times there aren't as many cases for them to handle.
Understood. So, no, that's great. That's good context. I appreciate that. Okay, other questions for Justin?
Just my thought was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of times whenever you bring in somebody outside, their subject matter expertise is really precise and rifle, and you really may not need them every day.
No, that's a good point, Commissioner Bluebaugh. We try to be judicious in our use of outside counsel. We try, Kevin Stamper in our office handles a lot of cases in house, and a lot of matters that he does handle and gets disposed of that we don't have to hire outside counsel to do. But he's one attorney, and both with attorneys and support staff, we're not necessarily geared to handle the full scope of our litigation in house. And you're right. We also, I mean, there are times we utilize outside counsel for also very. I talked about how specialized the practice of law is. We get some unique questions sometimes that are outside of the area of knowledge, and we have duties of competency. We can't just go into areas. A good example was we had a matter where the county wanted to hire somebody who could, a doctor to perform child psychiatry services. Well, we're not immigration law experts, and this doctor was going through that process last year. And so in that case, we had outside counsel who had assisted with us. So there are times where we have to, we do that simply because we're not going to be able to provide the right kind of legal advice in a very specialized niche area, but it doesn't come up too often other than litigation. That's the most common area.
Well, Justin, thanks. Appreciate the presentation, all the work you do. I just would acknowledge that there's times I've left here at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and you have lawyers in the office with assistants, legal assistants that are in there still doing work. And I just want you to know that we see that and we appreciate it.
They're a very hardworking team. I appreciate that, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Lauren?
Okay, for our last presentation today, we'll be on page 150 of your binder for MAPD, and Scott Wadle is here to present.
Scott Wadle been here all day. Do we have plats to talk about today, Scott? Or water issues? What do you want to talk about?
After we wrap up the budget,
cell phone towers.
We're bringing up all the greatest hits, right? Okay, everybody ready? Okay, here we go. All right, so here to talk about the planning department. Oh, I've got some handouts, and Brian and JR, if you all could, they're on the ground back there by the chair. So we've got the annual report that we printed out for y'all. And so those are coming to you. And then we also have some notes from the city budget hearing. And so because we're a joint city and county department, we go through both processes and we're going through both of those at the same time. The notes that you're going to see are truncated notes that came from the city manager's budget hearing that we had. And so they're just notes on the couple of the items that you're going to see in these. So, okay, so I'm just going to keep rolling along. Yes, fancy, yes. When we only print like 10 or 12 of them, we can go a little fancy. What? Since we're joint department, we kind of have to prove our worth every year. So I want to make sure we try and look good. So in terms of our mission and services, we provide professional planning services, obviously, for Wichita and Sedgwick County. I think you all know what we do. We do the zoning, subdivision, historic preservation, all those good things. In terms of the SWOT analysis, got some things on here to go through. So strengths, so we're nearly full in terms of staffing. We've got one position that's frozen. We have one part-time position that's a little challenging to get filled, and we're working on that one. And we have someone starting in May. So we're getting there, which is really great news because for years we've been talking about how difficult it has been to hire staff, especially planners. We have a stable leadership team. We have folks who have been in place for, in some cases, decades, in some cases, years. We've got engaged city and county leadership and appointed officials, and I just can't tell you how much I appreciate that. People like to dig into the details. There's lots back and forth, and I think that's been very beneficial for our staff. Hopefully it's been beneficial for you all. And I point out appointed officials because the planning commissioners, I think, they're really digging into stuff. They're getting into some really difficult topics, and I really appreciate having them to bounce things off of. City and county communication, there's been meetings that have had city and county officials there, and I think those have been really helpful. And so as a joint department director, I really appreciate those dialogues because that helps me to make sure that I'm in alignment with both the city and the county organizations. And then in terms of process, I think that we continue to work and refine our processes, but overall, I think we have a pretty good system for when our recommendation comes forward, when it goes to the planning commission, when it comes to you all. Weaknesses. So we are nearing full staffing. That's a strength. A weakness is as you've heard from other departments, is that if you subtract zoning enforcement from the planning department, and that's 4 staff members, if you subtract them, our average tenure is 1.5 years. And so my tenure is 5 years, and it goes down from there pretty much in the rest of the planning services group. Less than optimal use of technology. We are so busy getting the work done, processing the applications, doing the plans, that I think sometimes we miss opportunities to use technology better. So we field a lot of phone calls about, hey, what's the status of this case? You can't just go online and very easily look and see what the status of a case is, where it's going, that kind of stuff, what the details are. So we're not quite there. So I want to acknowledge that's a weakness, but that's also an opportunity. We have more generalists than specialists. That's what we hire for nowadays is generalists. It's because I can't always use someone who's doing demographics work. I cannot keep them busy. It's just not a good use of city and county resources to do that. But I can use a generalist who can do cases, can do neighborhood plans. And if I need a specialist who does demographics, we can pick up the phone and call and find someone who can. Prioritization process. This is something that is on my task list. I need to work on this. It's just, we've got priorities that change quite a bit, and that's cool. You know, things are fluid. We need to be responsive to the community, but making sure that we're working on what are the top priorities for the county and what are the top priorities for the city. It's important for me. And then transparency, just always improving our transparency with the process. In terms of opportunities, more robust use of technology. We've talked a little bit about that. Streamlining and enhancing alignment of codes to community needs. This is reflecting short-term rentals, entertainment centers, all those kinds of things. Also parking. What are ways that we can streamline the code to make things easier for the community and better in alignment with our goals? And then contracting and partnerships is an opportunity. Potential threats. Now, you can see this as an opportunity. You can see it as a threat. I listed it under threats because recently, in recent years, we've had state legislation that from my perspective, from what I've heard, it sounds like some state legislators are getting caught in situations that they don't like with zoning, or they have friends who are getting caught in situations, and then they're trying to rewrite state statutes for the entire state about how zoning operates. And that creates some challenges sometimes when you've got a large county, you've got a large city that you're trying to do planning and zoning for. And then zoning enforcement, retirements. So we had Kelly just retire. So just that transition, how do we get through that with that large knowledge base leaving? Workload, we're staying busy. We'll show you that in a moment. So that is a threat because we always try and keep an eye on burnout. When are we getting people kind of exhausted? And then workspace. When I comment on this, the first thing I need to tell you is that the crew that is maintaining our space are so responsive, and I appreciate them so much. I will email them. I will let them know about things. They are there the same day. They address things very, very quickly. However, with that said, they're trying to maintain a system, at least the HVAC system, I believe, at the Reagan building. The air conditioner's gone out. The heater's gone out. Stuff, I mean, temperatures in my office will fluctuate from 90 degrees to 60 degrees. And we had the air conditioner go out one day when Planning Commission was scheduled. Problem is, that's a public hearing. It's advertised to occur in the Reagan building. I can't just move it to another floor because the entire system is down in the entire building. So we have that meeting, we got by, but just know that that's kind of something that we're concerned of. And I can't emphasize enough, the crew that's maintaining it is doing a good job. They're working through it, but just we've got some challenges, that's all. So, okay, I guess I'm in control with the clicker. So I'm so used to the planning where it's like, next slide. All right. In terms of where we are with our staffing, again, these are going to change because we have another staff person is going to be starting up in current plans. So they're not here yet, but they will be at the end of this month. So, and that will help to boost the overall number. So we're getting where we need to be, which is really good. Here's our overall chart. Again, we have different divisions. We have current plans, which does zoning and subdivision. Philip Zevenbergen is in charge of that one. We have zoning enforcement with JR and crew, and they do the enforcement for the city of Wichita, not for Sedgwick County. That's under MABCD. Then we have the principal planner and advanced plans. That's Justin Constantino. So he does their crew works on comp plan, neighborhood plans. And then we have administration, which Brian Thompson oversees, and they do all of our agendas, minutes, all the stuff that helps make all the rest of this work. Planning services, in terms of what's mandatory or not mandatory. So here's just a quick analysis. The two that are not mandatory are historic preservation, and we largely do historic preservation for the city, and it's a benefit because the city has an agreement with the state to allow for local reviews, historic preservation reviews. Otherwise, they have to go up to Topeka. And then customer service, I mean, we try and do a good job on that, but some of that is discretionary. In terms of our structure, 50-50 funding split from the city and the county, and then we take fees that we collect, which helps reduce the subsidy from the city and the county. And then for zoning enforcement, they're kind of a unique animal in our department in that they're fully reimbursed by the county, and that was set up as part of the MABCD merger deal. In terms of our total revenue, you can see that the overwhelming majority of it is subsidy from the city and the county. There's a small portion, about 18%, from charges for services. And then in terms of expenditures, it's pretty much all on personnel. We do some contracting, but overall it's just for staffing. In terms of where we rank on the general fund, we do this for the city and the county as well. But for the county example, we rank 41st in terms of the general fund expenditures, and that is what, a 13th of 1%. So we're just above noxious weeds. We're always hanging out there with the weeds, and they're nice folks. They're great. So no, not. So then our annual report, this is some of the information that's in there. So in terms of applications process, this goes all the way back to 1985, which I find pretty amazing. But last year, you can see that big jump. The reason why that happened is because we were processing short-term rental applications for the city of Wichita. And there's two things they have to go through: licensing and zoning. The zoning is a one-time thing. So we're not going to see an up like that. We're going to see it go down this next year as things kind of settle back down. In terms of cases, non-subdivision cases, so zoning cases, the like, that went to MAPC. So again, not all the work that we do, but the ones that go to MAPC in 2024, you can see we're at 220, which is pretty high considering where we've been in the past few years. So kind of continuing that trend of upward. Subdivision cases, we were at 69 as opposed to prior years. So pretty busy there as well. I'll tell you, this year we've actually dropped off quite a bit on that. It's really slowed down for subdivision activity lately. In terms of the number of lots that were created, a tremendous amount of lots. And I think that could be one reason why we're seeing less subdivision activity this year. In terms of where the cases were, you can see they were spread out throughout the county. So each of the commissioners gets to have fun with a zoning case or like in their district. When it came to the city, this is all these green dots. These represent the short, not all of them, but most of them are the short-term rentals that we talked about. So one-time things. In terms of projects that we've been working on, College Hill Neighborhood Plan, event centers in the county, short-term rentals in the county, daycares, which will be coming to you shortly, solar zoning regulations, and then notification signs. So. In terms of our budget request, so here's the numbers. We show up as contractual, so interfund transfer. I can give you the breakdown in terms of personnel, contractuals, all that stuff if you like, but this is how it shows up in the county budget. Decision package. So this is one that you saw last year, and I've got I'll tell you what it is first, and then I'll give you the notes on this one. So this would develop pre-approved infill housing designs and then would modify the zoning code so that if you were in a single family zoning area and you were within one of these areas using a pre-approved plan that had been signed off on by the neighborhood association and the governing body, that you would be able to go ahead right away without any zoning action. That way the neighborhood knows what they're getting, the community knows what they're getting, and the developer, the person who's doing the project, knows what they're getting into as well. Kind of reverses the zoning process, kind of flips it on its head. So what this does is this helps increase the tax base because it's infill. So the other thing too is it increases housing supply and helps to reflect community context because they're pre-approved designs. So the funding request on this one was $70,000, split 50-50 from the city and the county. The note on this one is that through the city process, at this time, through the city's budget process, the city is not supportive of this one at this point in terms of funding this one. However, there is a note that just yesterday, the city council considered funding it through the CDBG funding, and it is currently in the approved one-year action plan, I believe, or the consolidated plan, one of the two, for CDBG funding. So they would fund it through that in that way. The next one then is Planning Commissioner Ongoing Education Opportunities. So this one is a $7,000 request, $3,500 from the city, $3,500 from the county. This is just simply to have some funding to be able to afford to send some or take some of the planning commissioners with us to a state conference on planning to give them an opportunity to learn more about planning overall and just what's going on elsewhere in the state. And these are volunteers. They come with a wealth of knowledge and a variety of backgrounds, but a lot of them don't have specific planning experience. And so I think this could be beneficial for them. And it would also give them a sense of, are they wrestling with the similar things that other communities are, and kind of start that dialogue. So. And then revenue package, this really concerns the city of Wichita, but it affects our budget. So therefore it affects the subsidy from the county. And this would be to charge a annexation and de-annexation fee. Currently we do those for the city of Wichita, and we do not charge a fee for that. I think historically it's been seen as a benefit for the entire community. So they have not done that, but this raises a question about whether or not we should charge a nominal fee. And by our estimates, just based on prior year's activity, so we think it'd be about $30,000 that it would generate. So not a ton, but still a noticeable amount. So here's how those line up in terms of the requests and the funding opportunity. And so with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, very good. Appreciate it, Scott.
Yeah.
On that decision package one, would that require a zoning, any changes to our unified zoning code as well?
It would, yes, sir.
These are conversations we've had about how do we get infill opportunities, and so maybe multi-duplexes or triplexes and single family.
Yeah.
I'd like to learn more on the decision package and what that looks like.
Okay.
So maybe I can set up a separate time to visit with you about that. And
yeah, you bet. I've got, as always, got lots of slides and pictures and stuff.
Yeah, I know. Okay, very good. Commissioner Howe.
Thank you, Chairman. So again, so on that package number one, who is it that's doing the design or develop the pre-approved infill housing designs? What? Yes. This is a contract. We're talking about a contract that's apparently that.
Yes. Yeah. There are firms that have helped out other communities. We learned about this through a variety of means. And then there was a presentation at a joint bi-state conference. And there's a group, at least one company that we're aware of. I know there's more, but a local one out of Bentonville, I believe, who's been working with cities in Arkansas and also Overland Park to do this, implement this type of system. There's some complexities because, for instance, who does the designs, who owns the designs, how does the developer get the rights to use the designs, or the local community? Do they license them? Do they pay for them in total and then they distribute them for free? So there's some questions about that you have to work through. The other thing too is that a best practice evidently is that you develop the designs, you implement it in 1 year, and then you know that you'll have to have some funding in the second year to go back and adapt those designs as people are working with them in the real world and discover certain things, and you have to work through that.
What does it mean by reflects surrounding context and designs? What's that mean?
Yes. So the concept here is that you would have a different design possibly for different neighborhoods. So the architecture in Midtown could be different than the architecture in Delano or South Central neighborhood. And my personal experience has been that watching these zoning cases, that often this becomes the rub. Is sometimes it's the use, but a lot of times it's also about what it looks like too. And so if we can get these pre-approved designs, hopefully we can take a lot of the friction out of the whole process, because the neighborhood has said, yep, we think this is appropriate. The developer knows that they're getting a design that they'll know what the costs are to build it. They'll know that it's pre-approved and they can just keep moving. And the local government gets the tax revenue from the infill on the site, the fact that a vacant lot that has been served with some of the most expensive infrastructure is now being utilized. So police, fire, streets, roads, all that good stuff. So there's multiple benefits that come from this.
I would have said that the places for people plan was more of a structure, an idea on how to do some things in the community. I didn't ever view that as being something that would end up costing taxpayer money. So I'm a little surprised by that. And the comprehensive plan again is also just it's a document we update once in a while, kind of, that MAPC commissioners and staff would use to kind of direct and guide, kind of high level planning on where things should be in the community. So I guess I'm not sure I support this. The infill, what we're talking about, is in the heart of Wichita. We're not talking about infill in the county, are we?
Largely no, but the reason why I felt comfortable bringing this to you is just because my understanding is that the vast majority of property taxes that are collected in Sedgwick County come from the city of Wichita properties. And so any infill in the city of Wichita will help the Sedgwick County balance.
So they may have another interest in doing this. I don't know if that belongs in your budget. They could use other revenues to do this outside the MAPD budget potentially. And again, I mentioned this at the en banc meeting. I don't think the city and county need to pool our resources together, because what ends up happening is city people are taxed twice through two different municipalities for the same thing. And since this is in the heart of the city and the city is one that's going to benefit from this, I don't think this belongs in this budget. If they want to do it, they can do it outside the MAPD budget. So I don't support that. Second of all, I think it could be done in the private sector. I don't know that we need to have tax dollars involved in this at all. I'll just say I don't think I support that. I had one other question. So a lot of this deals with, I guess I'm a little bit gray on, this might be a Justin question if he's in the room, I don't know. But anyway, the interlocal agreement that was passed and that was created in 2016, 2017, mm-hmm. was that ever adopted by Wichita? The interlocal agreement between Wichita and Sedgwick County for funding.
My understanding is yes, sir.
Yeah, it's been ratified by the AG.
Right. We had another agreement that we did in 2022, it was in 2022, and we basically tried to get that to be adopted in 23 and 24. And it's, as far as I know, it's still not been adopted.
That was for MABCD. And you're right, that one has not been.
Okay. So we'll talk about that when we get to that other budget. So is that also the same thing where we have the parking agreement, we spend, I think, $28,000 for 60 spaces? Am I doing that right? Is that this budget, or is that
that is not part of this budget?
Right. That's not for MAPD. And even within MABCD, we do have that they are paying for their share of space into debt service to pay for their portion of that building. So they are, I think there was discussion on that. Both sides are coming to the table monetarily on that one.
Okay. So the Reagan building is a space that you guys use.
Correct.
I don't know that we need necessarily the agency to ask for HVAC. I hope we have facilities that basically is already has a solution to whatever the problem is on that. It's again, another discussion for another set of people, I suppose. So I'm glad to know there is a problem, but I don't know that there's anything in this budget that needs to.
No, and we've not proposed that. I don't think anyone wants me messing with the HVAC system. Lock me out. Yeah.
Okay. So other than the air conditioning or heating or whatever's going on there, the space needs. It sounds like I don't know what page it's on, but it seems like there was some general dissatisfaction with the space.
Oh, just the SWOT analysis. And it's not to mention that we're dissatisfied with it. Please don't evict us. We really appreciate that space. It's just to note that is one of the challenges. And so just to bring it to your attention.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Scott, just quick question. The rub with Wichita on that decision package one, I'm not asking you to speak for them, but was it the issue of the zoning change of putting in multi-families into single family, or was it a dollars issue? The rub has always been, when I talk about infill and the opportunity to get duplexes and triplexes on infill, there's 2,000 of them in my district, infill opportunities. It's always been the rub was single family zoning and invading that. I'm just curious if because these are two different approaches I want to take, depending on the challenge.
I think the focus for this time was really, they're going through almost a strategic planning process. Yeah. And it was whether or not a lot of the conversation was whether or not this aligned with that strategic plan. It's interesting. We're seeing how that dialogue goes because they're doing that at the same time as they're going through the budget process. So the answer could evolve. But at the same time, what's interesting is that it was included as part of their plans and funding allocations for CDBG funding yesterday.
Okay,
So,
well, good to know. I just know that as we start talking about this housing crisis and trying to incentivize development, not from tax dollars, but the market to meet the challenges, planning and regulations and permits and things of that sort. And how do we ease some of that to make sure we can get this engine turning a little bit, that you're at those tables too. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the conversations. Okay, very good. Anything else? Well, you were the caboose here. You were the last guy. You've been
save
with
the
us all
best
day.
for last, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate all the work you do. Okay, Lorian, is that it?
That's it for today. We'll be back at 1 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay, Tom, anything else? We're good. Is this room, Tanya? Oh, we'll carry the binders with us. Okay. Okay, everybody. Thanks for all the work. See you tomorrow, 1 o'clock.